Chapter 741. Han Biao rolled his eyes in his heart, but he still said, "Happy working with you." How is that a happy working with you? Han Biao wanted to die at that moment. The reason why Han Biao agreed to hand over the leopard gang to Yun Jian so easily was because, if he did not agree, Yun Jian would kill him. That was one of the reasons. The biggest reason was that he had heard that Yun Jian had used a similar method to take Falcon Hall under her wing. After Dragon Head Gang was taken under Yun Jian's wing, it became the current Falcon Hall. Yun Jian herself used the name of Falcon Hall's boss, but handed over all the gang's affairs to Su Zetian. If Yun Jian wanted to kick him out of the gang after taking over the gang, Han Biao would consider whether to compromise or not. According to the information Han Biao received, Yun Jian immediately changed the name of Dragon Head Gang to Falcon Hall after she took over. As for Yun Jian, she did not care about the gang's affairs at all. She was merely a figurehead at best. What moved Han Biao even more was that ever since Yun Jian led Falcon Hall, she had single-handedly destroyed the Sky Bridge Gang in less than half a year. She even took over the Sky Bridge Gang in the shortest time possible. This made Dragon Head Gang, which was the current Falcon Hall, one of the last few gangs in Jia Province, quickly become the second gang in Jia Province. It was only today that Han Biao realized that Yun Jian's strength was so strong because she knew the Kosha mercenaries' elders. Those were the elders who could directly replace the Kosha mercenaries' boss and directly dispatch the Kosha mercenaries. The facts proved that if Han Biao were to fight with Yun Jian, he would admit that he was no match for her just based on the fact that Yun Jian knew the Kosha mercenaries. Therefore, he might as well go all the way and agree to hand the leopard gang over to Yun Jian. Or perhaps, after becoming Yun Jian's subordinate, she could lead the Panthers gang to greater heights and become the #1 gang in the country, or even step onto the international stage. It had to be said that Han Biao's heart was faintly stirred. Moreover, as long as Han Biao joined an organization and became a member, he would be a loyal and devoted person. His greatest strength was that he would never betray the people in his own organization. Zhang Jifan and Duan Lei, who were standing not far away, were so shocked that they couldn't control themselves. Duan Lei, in particular, had gone through a long journey to make a name for himself in Longmen City, with Su Zetian and a group of brothers. But what about Yun Jian? How long had it been? She had taken over the leopard gang without expending a single soldier? Yun Jian's appetite was indeed huge. That was what everyone present thought. But at the same time, they couldn't help but add a sentence in their hearts. Yun Jian may have a big appetite, but she has such strength, so why should we be afraid? The rest of the gathering went smoothly. Of course, due to what happened earlier, those who were fearful left early. People like Yi Kai, Gao Meihan, and the rest had left long ago. Dai Qingqing, on the other hand, continued to talk to Yun Jian fearlessly with Grandpa Kai. The leopard gang was not like the Dragon Head Gang back then, so it would take some time for Yun Jian to take the leopard gang into her Falcon Hall and change all the leopard gang's territories and members into Falcon Hall. Yun Jian was not afraid that Han Biao would go back on his word. Based on the current situation, it was Han Biao who was afraid that Yun Jian would go back on her word. After all, Han Biao was the leader of the top gang in Jia Province, but he could not leave. With Yun Jian around, as long as he was not an idiot, he would definitely join Falcon Hall. Chapter 742. After the gathering ended, Han Biao gave Yun Jian his contact, and Yun Jian brought Zhang Jifan and Duan Lei for supper. Other than Zhang Jifan and Duan Lei, Yun Jian also brought Dai Qingqing, Grandpa Kai Bear, Might and the rest. Bear. Might was flattered to be invited to supper by Yun Jian. Others did not know but Bear. Might was aware of Yun Jian's identity. When Yun Jian learned from Dai Qingqing that there was a seafood barbecue stall nearby, she led the group there without hesitation. When he saw Yun Jian leading the group into the seafood barbecue stall, Bear Might could not help grinning. It turned out that the boss of Kosha mercenaries would bring them to the stall for barbecue too. Looking at how Yun Jian ordered the menu skillfully, Bear Might could not help grumbling inwardly. So the boss of Kosha mercenaries, the richest woman in the secret agent and assassin world, would actually eat the food sold by such a stall. After supper, Yun Jian returned to XNXN Garden Hotel with a stomach full of grease. Yun Jian went home early the next morning. Bear, Might and the rest left early in the morning, coming over to greet Yun Jian before they left. Dai Qingqing waved goodbye to Yun Jian with tears in her eyes. Yun Jian comforted her by saying that they would meet again next time. They would indeed meet again next time. Since the Panthers Pack's headquarters was here, Yun Jian had to go through a lot of procedures to take them under her Falcon Hall. Especially since Han Biao was from here, Yun Jian would definitely have to travel back and forth in the future. With Dai Qingqing sending them off, Duan Lei drove off with Yun Jian and Zhang Jifan in his car. After about 2 hours of driving, Duan Lei drove Yun Jian and Zhang Jifan back to Longmen City. Once back in Longmen City, Duan Lei could not help hurrying to Falcon Hall's headquarters to report the good news. Falcon Hall would soon become the biggest gang in Jia province. It was all thanks to Yun Jian. New crews belonged to Yun Jian as well. Zhang Jifan's friendship with Duan Lei and the rest had deepened, so he was delighted to see Falcon Hall doing well. After all, the wider Falcon Hall's future path was, at the same time, a representation of how powerful New Crew's backing was. It was noon when Yun Jian returned home. Winter had left quietly as the beginning of spring enveloped the city. It was noon when the sun was shining. The temperature during the day was comparable to summer's rain. Yun Jian returned home under the warm sun. Once she entered, Yun Jian saw Lan Su helping Adam down the stairs. "Yun Jian, you're back?" When she saw Yun Jian, Lan Su had forgotten that Adam was heavily injured and could not walk alone. Lan Su accidentally let go of his hand. "Oh my, what the hell? What are you doing? Is this how you serve a patient?" Adam's lips twitched exaggeratedly. "I'm sorry, I forgot." Lan Su quickly held Adam's hand again and helped him down the stairs gently. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and asked, "Where's my mom?" "Auntie, she went to try on the wedding gown with Auntie Dong Ruan," Lan Su said, remembering Qin Yuru's request. "Where are they?" Yun Jian asked again. "United Luenmai Shopping Center." "Young mistress, you can go take a look." Adam held his leg and slowly walked down the stairs with Lan Su's help. Once she heard that Qin Yuru had gone to try on the wedding gown, Yun Jian turned to leave the house and headed to the shopping center. Chapter 743. "I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose." Lan Su's awkward voice could be heard faintly. It was Lan Su's first time serving someone. She had always been the one being served in the past. Even when the shaman tribe had declined in Yulong mainland, Lan Su was not reduced to the point where she had to serve someone. Perhaps it was because she felt that she had let Adam down. So Lan Su could be said to be extremely tolerant of Adam. Stupid woman. After hearing Lan Su's words, Adam, who was about to criticize Lan Su, loosened his mouth and finally spat out these 3 words. On the other hand, Yun Jian was already on her way to United Luenmai Shopping Center. United Luenmai Shopping Center, as the name suggested, could buy most items in Longmen City. While there were not many shops selling wedding gowns, there were a few of them in United Luenmai Shopping Center. In Longmen City, United Luenmai Shopping Center was considered one of the bigger shopping platforms. Yun Jian did not know which shop Qin Yuru and Dong Wan had gone to, but Yun Jian was patient enough to look for them. Due to the hot weather at noon, Yun Jian only wore a white hoodie with long sleeves. The pure white sweater on her body added a sense of youthfulness and delicateness to her. Those who did not know would think that Yun Jian was just a young girl brimming with youthfulness when they passed by and saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian had yet to find Qin Yuru after walking around several wedding gown shops in United Luenmai Shopping Center. She was not in a hurry either. The day before yesterday, which was Friday night, Yun Jian heard from Qin Yuru that she would be attending a high school reunion with Dong Wan this afternoon. Yun Jian could guess that Dong Wan was probably free today and had applied for leave to attend the reunion. Once it was over, she would accompany Qin Yuru to pick out a wedding gown. Dong Wan was a high-ranking official, so she usually did not have time. It was probably because she had not started work these few days that Dong Wan and Qin Yuru went to the reunion first upon returning from the countryside, and went shopping in the afternoon to pick out a wedding gown for Qin Yuru. May 21st was Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding date. It was already March now, just over 2 months away from the wedding date. It was already considered late for Qin Yiru to pick out a wedding gown now. Unfortunately, Gu Junjian had been busy with military affairs these few days. Yun Jian also knew that Gu Junjian did not have time to accompany Qin Yiru to pick out a wedding gown. Since Dong Wuan was free today, she naturally did it on behalf of Gu Junjian. Just as she thought of this, Yun Jian turned a corner. When she looked up, she inadvertently saw Qin Yiru standing in the distance. Dong Wuan was also standing beside Qin Yiru. Yun Jian slightly restrained her expression and was about to walk over with a smile when she saw a group of people standing in front of Qin Yiru and Dong Wuan in the distance. Qin Yiru and Dong Wuan did not enter the wedding gown shop. The group of people standing in front of Qin Yiru and Dong Wuan looked to be about the same age as the two of them. A woman who stood at the front was lecturing Qin Yiru in a loud, glib voice. "Don't be like this. I was wondering why the two of you left after attending the reunion. It's a reunion after all. Everyone went to karaoke in the afternoon, but the two of you left and even said that you had something to do. If we didn't take this path to the karaoke, we wouldn't have seen the two of you. It's not easy for classmates to gather together. The two of you are really. Also, Qin Yiru, didn't you drop out of high school halfway through? Aren't you already married? Now you're here to pick out a wedding gown. Are you planning to get married again?" Chapter 744. Even the passers-by on the street could not help but stop and turn to glance at Qin Yiru when they heard the woman pointing at Qin Yiru and saying that she was planning to remarry. No matter which era it was, people who remarried would always be gossiped about, especially at Qin Yiru's age. If this woman stood on the street and said that she was planning to remarry, some passers-by would definitely overthink. If it was accidentally overheard by acquaintances, it would spread like wildfire. Even if it was a good thing, it would become a bad thing. "Young Whiting, that's enough. You were the one who talked the most in high school. What does Yura's life have to do with you?" Before the woman could finish, Dong Wuan refuted her with a frown in front of everyone. Compared to her high school self, Dong Wuan was more mature now, but a person's personality would not change. When someone pointed at Qin Yiru, Dong Wuan would stand up for Qin Yiru as usual. Qin Yiru had a weaker personality. Dong Wuan was the reason why she was not bullied by the troublemakers in high school. Dong Wuan was a true career woman. She was a high-ranking official now, so she was naturally capable to reach her current position. The woman named Yang Whiting had been at odds with Dong Wuan since high school, especially Qin Yiru back then. Although Qin Yiru had put on some weight now and looked older due to hard work, Qin Yiru was still a famous beauty when she was in high school. At least in that era, Qin Yiru could be considered a natural beauty. However, her mother arranged for her to marry Yun Gang after she dropped out of school. That was how her miserable first half of her life began. If it were not for Yun Jian and Yun Yi's encouragement, Qin Yiru might not have dared to divorce Yun Gang until now. Fine. I'm not going to meddle in your business. Haha, it's a class reunion, and everyone invited you to karaoke in the afternoon out of goodwill. You're the only one who didn't give us any face. You're still in the right? Yang Whiting was still aggressive. With that said, Yang Whiting didn't wait for Dong Wuan to refute. She turned around and asked the group of classmates, "Isn't that right, everyone? Am I right?" Yang Whiting's figure was now very well maintained, and her face was also smeared with all kinds of cosmetics. However, when her classmates gathered for lunch, Yang Whiting showed off her husband's identity. Yang Whiting's husband was the director of a plastic processing factory in Longmen City and was already worth millions. After hearing Yang Whiting's boastful bragging, the other students immediately started to flatter Yang Whiting when they heard her words. Everyone was thinking that it was better to please Yang Whiting than to please Qin Yiru, who was born in the countryside. "Yang Whiting, you're right." A fat middle-aged man with a big belly expressed his agreement with Yang Whiting's words. As the middle-aged man spoke, he turned around to scold Qin Yiru. "It's a class reunion today. If both of you really have something to do, we won't scold you for leaving so early. But if you don't even want to go shopping with us, you should have said it earlier. We don't lack the two of you. Ha! It was a nice reunion, but look what happened now. You've made us unhappy too. You're the ones who are happy now, aren't you? The middle-aged man's words were getting more and more ridiculous as he spoke. Chin Yiru had already planned to come out early to settle on her wedding dress today. Chapter 745. Chin Yiru could not come up with any explanation. She had a weak personality to begin with. Young Whiting and this middle-aged man were famous blabbermouths when Chin Yiru was in high school. In the words of that time, even dead things could be said to be alive. Today's matter was actually very simple. Dongwon took the whole day off today. Dongwon was supposed to go to work now. Dongwon was a high-ranking official, so it was not easy for her to take a day off. Therefore, Chin Yiru made arrangements early in the morning. After she and Dongwon attended the class reunion in the afternoon, they would go to a few bridal shops in the Lianmei shopping center to try on wedding dresses. It was best to decide on the wedding dresses. After all, it was almost the wedding date. However, Chin Yiru did not expect that when she and Dongwon bid farewell to everyone in the afternoon, she simply said that she had something to do in the afternoon and could not go to the karaoke with her classmates. In this era, there were only a few kinds of class reunions in middle school and high school. Either everyone gathered together for a meal, then went to karaoke in the afternoon, and went home in the evening. Chin Yiru did not expect that after she and Dongwon left, they would actually meet this group of classmates who were having a class reunion in the Lianmei shopping center. This was originally not a big deal. However, after Young Whiting and the pot-bellied middle-aged man, it became Chin Yiru and Dongwon did not want to attend the class reunion with them. Then, the two of them found an excuse to go shopping by themselves. Chin Yiru did not expect such a small matter to be blown out of proportion. The middle-aged man with a big belly and fat all over his body was called Shinzhong. His name sounded simple and honest, but he wasn't like that at all. The reason why Shinzhong spoke up for Young Whiting and Chin Yiru was because he heard that Young Whiting's husband was the CEO of a plastic processing factory. His net worth was over 1,000,000 yuan. He was instantly tempted. Shinzhong had just lost his job not long ago. Therefore, he wanted to use this opportunity to flatter Young Whiting and beg her to arrange for him to work in her husband's company. Shinzhong, is there something wrong with you? Do you think we'll have to go with you if you say that? Good. Since you've said so, I'll tell you that Yiru and I don't want to attend the class reunion with you. If you have any class gatherings in the future, don't look for us. Dongwon was infuriated by the two unreasonable people, Young Whiting and Shinzhong. She immediately raised her voice and spoke in an unpleasant tone. Dongruan's personality was not as weak as Chin Yiru's. Especially when the other party was being unreasonable, she immediately shouted, Look, you admitted it yourself. Young Whiting shrugged her shoulders. In fact, Young Whiting had stolen the limelight at the class reunion this afternoon. Young Whiting felt that Dongwon and Chin Yiru were the two most useless people in the class. That was why the two of them were in a hurry to leave right after lunch. When Young Whiting was in high school, she had a small conflict with Dongwon and Chin Yiru. Therefore, it was actually Young Whiting who led them here today to bump into Chin Yiru and Dongwon, who came to United Lianmei shopping center to pick out wedding dresses. Her motive was obvious as well. She wanted to embarrass Dongwon and Chin Yiru. Young Whiting had no idea that Dongwon was now a high-ranking official in Longmen City. Otherwise, Young Whiting would not have dared to insult Dongwon and Chin Yiru in front of everyone even if she wanted to. So what if my mom and Auntie Dong admitted it? I'm the one who told them not to stay too long with trash before they came. Is that wrong? Yun Jian's melodious voice rang out just as Young Whiting was in high spirits. Chapter 746. Yun Jian listened from the side and figured out the whole story. Young Whiting was here purely to cause trouble for Chin Yiru and Dongwon. As Yun Jian spoke, she was already strolling over. She had just returned from Hang City. After knowing that Chin Yiru had gone to pick out a wedding dress, she wanted to rush over to accompany Chin Yiru. She did not expect to encounter such a situation. Yun Jian knew Chin Yiru very well. One should not be too weak, or else one would be bullied. That was true, but Qin Yiru was weak. She would never brag in front of others. Even if Yun Jian was the director of new crews, Qin Yiru would not brag in front of others, because she was not that kind of person. That was why Yang Whiting came to bully her. Although Yun Jian did not like Qin Yiru's weak personality, there was nothing she could do. The only thing she could do was to protect Qin Yiru, and not let others bully her. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present twitched violently. By the time they came back to their senses, Yun Jian was already in front of them. Trash? Who are you talking about? Yang Whiting shrieked when she heard that. She was dressed fashionably, and even had bright red nail polish on her hands. However, when she heard Yun Jian's words, Yang Whiting could not hold it in anymore. You're the bastard child of Qin Yiru, and the man she dropped out of high school to marry, right? Haha, who are you calling trash? Yang Whiting loved to curse when she was young. Now that she heard Yun Jian call them trash, she did not hold back at all. Everyone present was Qin Yiru's high school student. When Yun Jian called them trash, she included all of them. When Yang Whiting insulted Qin Yiru, everyone present looked at Qin Yiru with disdain. Yun Jian saw everything clearly. Qin Yiru had dropped out of high school to marry a man from the countryside. Everyone present thought that Qin Yiru was a poor village woman who lived in the countryside. Someone who would never be able to make a name for herself. Therefore, no one bothered with her during the class reunion in the afternoon. Some of them even mocked Qin Yiru jokingly. If Dong Ruan had not replied for her, Qin Yiru would not have known how to answer. I'll talk to whoever responds to me. Yun Jian replied faintly with a cold glance at Yang Whiting. Yun Jian ignored Yang Whiting and went over to take Qin Yiru's hand, telling Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan, Mom, Auntie Dong, let's go. As she spoke, Yun Jian was about to pull Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan into the bridal gown shop. Yang Whiting was rendered speechless by Yun Jian's words. Seeing that Yun Jian was about to pull Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan away in the next second, Yang Whiting was enraged. Her eyes then landed on the signboard of the bridal gown shop. It's Jelly Bridal Gown Shop. This is the biggest bridal gown shop in Longmen City. The lowest price for a bridal gown is tens of thousands. Can you guys afford it? Yang Whiting could not help shouting when she saw that Yun Jian and her friends were about to enter the shop. As Yang Whiting spoke, she did not forget to boast. When I got married to my husband, we bought our bridal gowns here. They cost 30,000 apiece. I said it was too expensive, but he insisted on buying them for me. I really can't do anything about him. Yang Whiting began to indulge in her own ego as she spoke. Mo-san, buy all the shops in United Luenmai Shopping Center. Just as Yang Whiting was feeling smug, a rich and pleasant male voice rang out. Yun Jian turned around abruptly when she heard the familiar voice. Chapter 747. Everyone was stunned by Si Yi's sudden appearance. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan did not expect Si Yi to show up out of the blue. What surprised them the most was that Si Yi had addressed the person as mother-in-law. The term mother-in-law was undoubtedly referring to Qin Yiru. Si Yi did not mention future mother-in-law, which meant that Si Yi had set his mind on Yun Jian and would not allow Yun Jian to go back on her word. In contrast to Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan's reaction, Yang Whiting and the rest had never seen Si Yi before. Especially Yang Whiting. When she realized that the mother-in-law Si Yi was referring to was Qin Yiru, she laughed sarcastically. Mother-in-law? TSK. While Yang Whiting was chuckling, Mo-san had already turned to leave. Yang Whiting was still looking at Qin Yiru with a mocking gaze. Qin Yiru, you're a mother-in-law so early? Your daughter is only in junior high, isn't she? As she spoke, Yang Whiting glanced at Yun Jian in disdain. She then turned to look at Si Yi who had just appeared, only to see Si Yi's handsome face that would infuriate both humans and gods. Even the middle-aged Yang Whiting could not help gasping when she saw Si Yi, but she recovered quickly. Like mother, like daughter. You dropped out of high school, and your daughter found a man so quickly. Is she planning to climb up the social ladder and become a phoenix? Yang Whiting taunted Qin Yiru again. Yang Whiting thought about it carefully. Her husband was the director of Longmen City's largest plastic processing factory, and was worth millions. Yang Whiting had attended many gatherings with her husband. She had attended all the gatherings in Longmen City, big and small. However, she had never seen Ce before. With that, Yang Whiting automatically assumed that Ce was a conceited young man. Who was he kidding? It was like a joke. Luenmai Shopping Center was not a place where one could just buy whatever they wanted. In Longmen City in this era, anyone with a net worth of millions could be considered a millionaire. The total assets of all the stores in Luenmai Shopping Center should be at least tens of millions, if not 100 million. Even if Ce was a rich second-generation heir, how could he have so much money? Was this a joke? After all, money in this era was much more valuable than it was now. 1 yuan back then might be equivalent to 10 or 20 yuan now. Yang Whiting could not help scolding Ce, who was walking toward Yunjian. She could not help scolding Ce. Yang Whiting could not help blowing her own trumpet. Forget it, forget it. It's useless to tell you all this. Those who aren't born into a rich family are destined to not have the dignity of a rich family. After Yang Whiting said those words, many people present were unhappy. Even the group of people who were with Yang Whiting just now were a little unhappy. It was because most of them were from ordinary families. While Yang Whiting was speaking, Ce had already walked to Yunjian. He extended his fair and slender hand to caress Yunjian's head softly in front of everyone. Qin Yiru was quite angry with Yang Whiting as well, but she was too weak and afraid of getting into trouble. When Ce stood up for her just now, Qin Yiru had a better impression of Ce. When Yang Whiting saw that no one was paying attention to her, she thought that she was right and continued her tirade. When Yang Whiting thought that Ce, Yunjian, and the rest had all listened to her, Ce merely caressed Yunjian's head without even looking at her. Chapter 748. Ce did not even look at Yang Whiting. Instead, he called her a piece of trash. Was he not referring to her when he called her a piece of trash? Yang Whiting was close to vomiting blood from anger. Yunjian had called her a piece of trash just now, and now even Ce, who had just arrived, was calling her a piece of trash. Yang Whiting was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Her husband was the director of Longmen City's plastic processing factory. No matter how useless she was now considered a member of a wealthy family. What about Yunjian and Ce? Both of them had called her a piece of trash. It was already good enough that Yang Whiting did not vomit blood from anger. Yunjian nodded faintly as she lifted her head to look at Ce's flawless chin. Qin Yiru, who stood aside, was extremely comforted. She might have thought that Ce was a pitiful child without a mother or father since he was young. Now, Qin Yiru had already treated Ce as one of her family and her future son-in-law from the bottom of her heart, based on how he was protecting Yunjian. Piece of trash your head. Just as Yang Whiting could no longer hold back her laughter, Mo Sen's voice came from beside her. Mo Sen's voice came from the side again. Young master, I've already bought all the stores in the United Luenmai Shopping Center at 10 times the price. 10 times the price. Before Yang Whiting could curse, she was drowned out by Mo Sen's voice. And now, everyone was stunned on the spot. 10 times the price. He had bought all the storefronts in United Luenmai Shopping Center? Was this a joke? Or was this man who called Ce young master just acting along with Ce's act? Do you think it's that easy to buy the storefronts here? Do you think all the shopkeepers here are willing to give you their storefronts? Do you even have the money? Yang Whiting did not believe that Ce had so much money on hand. After all, some of the shopkeepers here were unwilling to hand over their storefronts to others. Some of them had business and could recoup their losses and even earn a lot of money. Why would they give their storefronts to others so easily? Of course, if Ce really had 10 times the sum of all the shopkeepers in United Luenmai Shopping Center, it was not impossible to buy all the storefronts here at 10 times the price. After all, no shopkeeper would be dumb enough to sell their storefronts to others for 10 times the price and save them years of hard work. After all, they could do something else immediately after taking the money. They could even look for new storefronts. What's more, it was 10 times the money. It would be a waste not to take it. The problem was to buy all of the storefronts in Luenmai Shopping Center was bought over 100 million Chinese yuan, a few hundred million yuan. In 1999, how many families of households of the entire Luanmai Yang? Forget taking out so much money at once. It was still unknown if the total assets of Longmen City's tycoons combined could even reach 100 million. Just as Yang Whiting was about to mock Yun Jian and see in front of everyone, she suddenly saw a plump figure. Yang? Manager Yang? Yang Whiting looked at the fat figure that suddenly appeared in surprise. She immediately remembered that when she participated in a large-scale project with her husband last time, she happened to see this man suddenly running over from the other side. The man who suddenly appeared was the manager of United Luanmai Shopping Center, surnamed Yang. However, just as Yang Whiting thought of this, she saw Manager Yang go around her, lock onto Imo Sen's figure, and run towards him. After that, Manager Yang bowed his head and attached a card to Imo Sen in front of everyone. You keep it well. 300 million yuan has been credited to your account. 3 days later, I will negotiate and contact all the shops to leave the goods behind and move out of here. 300 million RMB had been deposited into the account. Chapter 749. It was not just Yang Whiting. Even Shen Zhong, who had spoken up for Yang Whiting just now, as well as all the high school classmates who had never looked Qin Yuru in the eye. Everyone was rooted to the spot, dumbfounded as they stared at Manager Yang and Imo Sen, who had appeared out of nowhere. Finally, they shifted their gazes to CE. Everyone present was in disbelief. 300 million yuan. This man who looked young, at most 20 years old, was actually able to fork out 300 million yuan. It had only been a short while since CE had sent Imo Sen to buy all the storefronts in United Luanmai Shopping Center. This also pointed to another point. CE's subordinate Imo Sen had hundreds of millions of yuan in his pocket at all times. Heavens! Some of the top tycoons in Longmen City only had a few 100 million yuan in total assets. Moreover, even these tycoons might only have a few million in their pockets. What about CE? He had offered 300 million yuan in one go. This meant that CE's total assets were far more than this amount. Although CE was not Qin Yuru's biological child, everyone present was certain that he was serious about this, judging by how CE treated Yun Jian. This meant that such a rich son-in-law would become a family with Qin Yuru sooner or later. Yang Whiting calmed down after her initial shock. For a moment, she was overwhelmed by a feeling of indignation. This money was not earned by Qin Yuru's daughter. Moreover, even if CE was Qin Yuru's future son-in-law, he was not now. Moreover, no one present could tell what would happen in the future. Perhaps such a rich son-in-law would not like Qin Yuru's daughter anymore? Qin Yuru would still be penniless. As Yang Whiting had a conflict with Dong Ruan and Qin Yuru in high school, and she was a vengeful person, she could only console herself in the face of such a reality. Just as Yang Whiting could no longer hold herself back, and was about to slip away with her classmates, Manager Yang's voice rang out again. Manager Yang's surprised voice rang again. New Cruise's director? Why are you here? What? New Cruise's director? Could it be CE? Bewilderment flashed across everyone's mind. Could CE be New Cruise's director? Everyone present turned to look at Manager Yang in surprise. Instead, Steward Yang was walking toward CE. He was New Cruise's director. Yang Whiting's heart skipped a beat. It was the kind of shock that came from fear. Who did not know the title of New Cruise's director? New Cruise had only been established for about half a year, but it was already a household name in Longmen City, while the company's name was known all over the country. Back then, New Cruise had displayed 3 limited edition supercars at the auto show. It could be said that New Cruise was a legend. However, if CE was New Cruise's director, it was not impossible for him to fork out 300 million Chinese yuan to buy United Luanmai Shopping Center, based on the company's marketing record. Just as everyone thought so, Manager Yang sprinted toward Yun Jian. His plump frame shuddered left and right before he finally came to Yun Jian. Manager Yang extended a trembling hand to Yun Jian, as if he had received the greatest honor, his voice trembling. You're New Cruise's director, aren't you? You might not remember me, but I saw you at the auto show last year. Your commentary on the supercars was even better than the average commentator. Chapter 750. Yun Jian was New Cruise's director? Was this a joke? Everyone present was rooted to the spot like they had just encountered something strange. Everyone knew that news of New Cruise had spread throughout Longmen City. It was said that New Cruise had come up with a new plan and would expand to the entire country soon. In an era as advanced as modern technology, car marketing companies like New Cruise were gradually going downhill. Perhaps New Cruise was still developing in Longmen City, but the government had begun to support the car marketing project. In other words, it was only a matter of time for New Cruise to expand out of Longmen City and into the entire country. There was a main reason for New Cruise's rise to fame: the auto show they held before they started operations. In the entire Z Nation, which company could produce 3 limited edition supercars at once? To put it bluntly, New Cruise's director was rich. Therefore, when everyone present heard that the rumored director of New Cruise was Yun Jian, they were all stunned. Not a single one of them looked ordinary, except for Qin Yiru, Dong Wan, Ce, and Mo Sun, who already knew about it. Currently, New Cruise was indeed going downhill, and its future was immeasurable. That was why manager Yang of United Luenmai Shopping Center spoke to Yun Jian in such a respectful manner. No, how is this possible? Qin Yiru, your daughter is New Cruise's director? How? How is this possible? Yang Whiting was wearing a pair of bright red high heels, but she took 2 steps back in the opposite direction and looked at Qin Yiru with a terrified gaze. This, Shenzhong, who had helped Yang Whiting to insult Qin Yiru just now, the pot-bellied, plump, middle-aged man who stood behind Yang Whiting, was in disbelief as well. At this moment, other than disbelief, Shenzhong was filled with deep regret. Qin Yiru's daughter was New Cruise's director. Who would have thought of something like this? Shenzhong had tried to please Yang Whiting purely because he had lost his job and wanted to get a job in her husband's company. And the result? He had offended the mother of the director of New Cruise. She had long heard that New Cruise's employees' monthly salary was higher than any other company or place in Longmen City. Of course, Shenzhong wanted to go in, but he couldn't. But at this moment, Shenzhong rolled his eyes and thought of another way. Just as Yang Whiting and Shenzhong spoke, Steward Yang was already staring at Yun Jian. He reached out his hand as if waiting for Yun Jian to reach out and shake his hand. Yes. Yun Jian responded to Manager Yang under everyone's expectant gazes. However, just as she was about to shake Manager Yang's hand, it was grabbed by Ce. Steward Yang originally lowered his head and sincerely wanted to shake Yun Jian's hand, but when he realized that Yun Jian did not reach out to shake his hand for a long time, he raised his head slightly. Once he did, Steward Yang's plump frame shuddered violently, and so did his body, as if he had seen something terrifying. He almost lost his footing from the shock and almost fell to the ground. Everyone present clearly saw Manager Yang's reaction, so they were all very surprised and bewildered. Following Steward Yang's angle, they saw Ce glaring at him coldly. Chapter 751. Ce's stare sent chills down Manager Yang's spine. He swallowed his saliva and didn't dare to extend his hand towards Yun Jian. In spite of it, Manager Yang's gaze was fixed on Yun Jian. Of course, he was looking at her with admiration. Can you give me your phone number? It'll be easier to contact you in the future. Manager Yang suddenly thought of something. He quickly took out his phone with trembling hands and asked Yun Jian. For someone of Manager Yang's status, the people he interacted with were all big bosses of the same status. Moreover, in 1999, mobile phones had started to enter the market. Communication devices, such as mobile phones and pagers, had already become popular among the big bosses. Sure. Yun Jian smiled and was about to take her phone out of her pocket. No. However, before Yun Jian could take out her phone, Ce's mellow voice came from behind Yun Jian. Manager Yang's body shrunk when he felt Ce's murderous gaze. He didn't know why, but this man gave him the feeling that if he asked for Yun Jian's number, he would kill him without hesitation. Therefore, Manager Yang shrunk his fat body and stuffed his phone back into his pocket. Clang! Manager Yang swallowed his saliva and shrunk his body before continuing. Pretend I didn't say anything. Even Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan, who were standing aside, could not help twitching their lips when they saw the scene. Dong Ruan, on the other hand, was amused. Based on Dong Ruan's understanding of Ce, ever since Ce's mother passed away, this child had started to hate the world. Ce's mother was Dong Ruan's biological sister. Dong Ruan naturally felt sad when she saw Ce's reaction. She was originally worried about Ce. What would happen to this child in the future? However, Dong Ruan had finally gotten over it. Look, she didn't have to worry anymore. Her stupid nephew, who was an emotional idiot, would probably give her a grandnephew in a few years' time. When she retired in her old age, she would take a stroll with Yiru. She could even find time to hug her grandniece. Most importantly, by then, she and Qin Yiru would really become in-laws. Although there were many layers of relationships, they could still be considered as in-laws. When Yunjian saw that Ce didn't agree, she immediately smiled and refused to give Steward Yang her number. Yunjian turned to look at Qin Yiru, pursed her lips and said, "Mom, let's go in. I'm free in the afternoon, so I can accompany you to shop." Yunjian had to go to school for evening self-study, but she had nothing to do in the afternoon, so she could accompany Qin Yiru to choose a wedding dress. Although it was Qin Yiru's second marriage, Yunjian had heard about it from her brother, Yun Yi. When Qin Yiru was with Yun Gang, they didn't have the money to get married. After Yun Yi was born, they couldn't even afford to buy Yun Yi's milk powder. At that time, Qin Yiru didn't have any milk, so Yun Yi was all skin and bones from starvation when she was young. When the original owner was 2 years old, Qin Yiru and Yun Gang had their wedding. However, this so-called wedding didn't have a wedding dress, only a pitiful amount of dowry. Qin Yiru's mother-in-law, Lu Lanhua, was a stingy person, so the villagers only invited a few families to have a meal and made do with it. In this day and age, people who drove cars to get married were the wealthiest people in the world. Chapter 752. Oh, okay. Qin Yiru snapped out of her shock and answered Yunjian at once. Other than Dong Ruan, who was her best friend for life, Qin Yiru really did not think much of her high school classmates. Of course, the reason Qin Yiru did not fight back when she was bullied was not because she was a saint, but because she was afraid of getting into trouble. To Qin Yiru, cowardice was her most obvious weakness. Nevertheless, it did not mean that Qin Yiru did not hate others at all. She was human too. She would usually hate or detest someone, but she would not voice it out for someone like Qin Yiru. She would only keep her thoughts hidden in the depths of her heart. Now that Yunjian was successful and capable, it was Qin Yiru's greatest satisfaction and pride. Let's go. Qin Yiru promised Yunjian, and was about to turn to call Ce. It was evident that Qin Yiru was treating Ce as her real son-in-law. Puppy love was not a good thing. Qin Yiru agreed with that. To Qin Yiru, if Xiao Jian and Xiao Yi met someone decent, Qin Yiru would not object. On the contrary, she would support them wholeheartedly. After all, Qin Yiru was someone who got married and got pregnant early. What she did was not considered puppy love. When she married Yun Gang, Qin Yiru had never fallen in love. Of course, it was not impossible that Qin Yiru had fantasized about Yun Gang for a period of time. Since what happened later, however, no matter how many fantasies Qin Yiru had, they were all gone now. It was fortunate that she was able to meet Officer Ge while she was still alive. Once she thought of Officer Ji's tolerance and like-minded personality, Qin Yiru looked forward to the days ahead. Yes, let's go. Ce agreed to Qin Yiru's request. Then, he smiled and grabbed Yunjian's hand as they walked into the bridal shop named Jelly. Seeing this, Emo's son wanted to follow in. Just as Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan were about to turn around and enter, a male voice rang out. Wait! When they first heard this voice, Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan stopped in their tracks. Yunjian sensed that Qin Yiru was not following them, so she tugged on Ce's hand and turned around. Shinzhong, who had been criticizing Qin Yiru along with Yang Whiting, called out to stop Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan. Qin Yiru, Dong Ruan, it was my fault just now. I've wronged you. I hope you can forgive me. Shinzhong suddenly apologized. Then, he brought up the topic that everyone wanted to forget. I thought you didn't want to hang out with us. That's why you said that. Now I know that you're here to buy a wedding dress, right? Haha, I've wronged you. I hope you can forgive me. Shen Zhong's eyes darted around as he spoke. There was a reason for Shen Zhong to show his weakness. Shen Zhong had been unemployed for a while now. Now that he had offended the mother of the director of New Cruise, he felt that he was showing his weakness to Qin Yiru and Dong Yuan. Qin Yiru had a weak heart, and since they were classmates, it should not be difficult for Qin Yiru to ask her daughter to get him a job in New Cruise, right? Of course, Shen Zhong's decision to suck up to Yun Jian meant that he had decided to fall out with Yang Whiting. As expected, even if Yang Whiting knew that Yun Jian was the director of New Cruise, she would not show her weakness. When Yang Whiting saw Shen Zhong's sudden betrayal, she immediately shouted at him, Shen Zhong, what's the meaning of this? Didn't you agree? Chapter 753. Agree to what? However, before everyone could hear the rest of Yang Whiting's words, Shen Zhong had already threatened Yang Whiting. You be *th, don't speak in front of me. Do you believe that I won't expose your dirty secrets? Yang Whiting and Shen Zhong's words made everyone present bewildered. However, no one knew what was going on. Sure enough, when Yang Whiting heard that Shen Zhong was going to expose her secret, her face instantly turned pale. When everyone present heard Yang Whiting and Shen Zhong's conversation, they became even more suspicious. What other dirty secrets could there be? Could it be that Yang Whiting and Shen Zhong had some other relationship? Yun Jian's eyebrows twitched as an undetectable glint flashed across her eyes. Ce, on the other hand, lifted the black watch on his wrist and glanced at it. His thick brows on his flawlessly handsome face frowned slightly. It's 12:30 p.m. Time to go. Ce's inappropriate voice suddenly sounded. Yun Jian didn't want to talk to Yang Whiting and Shen Zhong anymore. So she said to Qin Yiru, Mom, don't worry about them. Let's go. Okay. Qin Yiru remembered that she had to rush home to prepare dinner, because Yun Jian had to go to school for self-study. Hence, she didn't want to waste any more time here. Wait, are you not going to forgive me? Shen Zhong panicked when he heard that Yun Jian and Ce were about to leave. However, Shen Zhong was a person who knew how to adjust to the situation. He didn't ask Yun Jian, Ce or Dong Yuan. Instead, he asked Qin Yiru directly. Shen Zhong had grasped Qin Yiru's personality. He knew that Qin Yiru had a soft personality. In high school, Qin Yiru had a soft personality. Furthermore, whenever someone asked her for something, she would give it to them. She was extremely kind. Qin Yiru panicked after being questioned by Shen Zhong. We have nothing to do with you. How can you forgive us? When Yun Jian saw Shen Zhong's expression, she knew that Shen Zhong definitely had something to ask of her. Hence, Yun Jian took over Qin Yiru's words and said to Shen Zhong. The meaning of Yun Jian's words could not be more obvious. Even if Yun Jian couldn't guess what Shen Zhong was thinking, she had a rough idea. Just by looking at Shen Zhong's appearance, Yun Jian knew that he definitely had something to ask of her. Or rather, he needed to use New Cruise. If a person like Shen Zhong was recruited into New Cruise, or even put in an important position, New Cruise's future would not last long. Mom, let's go. Yun Jian shook off Ce's hand this time, and walked over to pull Qin Yiru towards Jelly Bridal Boutique. Seeing Yun Jian and the rest walk into Jelly Bridal Boutique, Shen Zhong's wishful thinking was ruined. He looked on hatefully as Yun Jian's figure disappeared before him. However, there was nothing he could do about it. When Yang Whiting saw that Yun Jian and the rest had walked into Jelly Bridal Boutique, she instantly lost the intention to continue fooling around. Hence, she told everyone present, I suddenly feel unwell. I'll take my leave first. Wait. Shen Zhong knew that he could no longer get into New Cruise. Hence, he turned around to please Yang Whiting. Yang Whiting, about what you promised me before. Tui, no way. Yang Whiting was filled with anger when she recalled what Shen Zhong had done earlier. She then said through gritted teeth. Chapter 754. Yang Whiting's expression changed again when she heard Shen Zhong mention it again. However, she soon remembered that Shen Zhong was just saying it casually. He had threatened her with it a few times before, but he had never dared to reveal it. Although in front of a group of high school classmates, Yang Whiting was afraid that Shinjong would really say it out loud. But she still didn't change her arrogant face. Yang Whiting lifted her head to look at Shinjong, and even said in a provocative tone, "Do you dare? If you do, I won't help you anymore. You motherf asterisk cur. Do you think your husband's lousy company is of any use? Compared to new crews, your husband's plastic processing factory should shut down as soon as possible." Shinjong spat at Yang Whiting through clenched teeth when he heard her tone. The thought of Yang Whiting causing him to be unable to enter new crews made Shinjong even angrier. Shinjong thought that he was unable to enter new crews purely because he helped Yang Whiting to talk to Qin Yiru. It was all Yang Whiting's fault. As for Yang Whiting's husband's plastic processing factory, Shinjong did not want to enter new crews after he heard about it. Look at this. What's the use of this woman carrying a bag and wearing branded clothes? She was still moaning excitedly under me yesterday. Shinjong was so angry that his eyelids were rolling. Hence, he decided to go all out and reveal the whole thing. Yang Whiting did not expect Shinjong to really reveal the whole thing, especially in front of all her high school classmates. Yang Whiting's face was pale, but she reacted quickly. She shouted at Shinjong, "You're spouting nonsense. Why would I be with a damn fatty like you? F***ck, Yang Whiting, you have a mole on your left chest. You should know if I'm spouting nonsense or not." Shinjong cursed and turned to leave in a huff. In the end, Yang Whiting was the only one left to deal with the situation. "Yang Whiting, I remember that you really do have a mole on your left chest." A high school classmate who used to be Yang Whiting's roommate said hesitantly. Everyone present understood what was going on when they heard that. Yang Whiting did have an affair with Shinjong, but Shinjong was so fat and ugly that Yang Whiting was actually forced. If there was a first time, there would be a second time. In the beginning, Shinjong even took photos. Later, Shinjong kept threatening Yang Whiting with the photos. Of course, Yang Whiting's secret would not have been exposed today if she had not brought a bunch of people to put on airs in front of Qin Yiru in the first place. As for how Yang Whiting was going to clean up the mess, it was all up to her. Yunjian and the others had already entered Jelly Bridal Shop. As soon as they walked into Jelly Bridal Boutique, Qin Yiru mentioned that CE had really bought the Lianmei shopping center. After all, in Qin Yiru's opinion, it was fine for CE to be rich, but money shouldn't be spent so recklessly. Yiru, don't mind him. He's just like a child. He lacks everything but money. Dongwon told Qin Yiru. Dongwon then told Qin Yiru jokingly, "You've given your daughter to him. Our bill today will be on him. Yiru, don't be courteous with AE. Even if we buy everything in Longmen City today, he'll still follow us happily and pay for us." As Dongwon spoke, she glanced at CE, who was holding Yun Jian's hand tightly, as if afraid that Yun Jian would get lost. Chapter 755. Dongwon was a fashion-savvy person. The wedding gown that she had chosen for Qin Yiru was unique as well. It brought out Qin Yiru's beauty. It had been some time since Qin Yiru went to work. Qin Yiru had been taking care of her 3 children, Xiao Yunju, Duanli and Duanya. The 3 children were obedient. Of course, while Xiao Yunju and the other 2 children were away at school, Qin Yiru had nothing to do at home. She would even go to the nearby park to work out. Moreover, Qin Yiru would appear punctually at the small park near the villa in the morning, noon, and night. Qin Yiru's appetite did not decrease, but her figure was noticeably slimmer than before. Overworking oneself did not necessarily mean that one would become thinner. On the contrary, one would gain weight. Qin Yiru's days were quite comfortable. Compared to when she was in Xinjiang town, the difference was like heaven and earth. "Yiru, go try on this wedding gown. It matches you perfectly," Dongwon said, and quickly asked the attendant to bring out a wedding gown with an extra-long hemline. Qin Yiru had a good temper. She had already changed into more than 10 wedding gowns. Now that Dongwon had brought out a wedding gown, Qin Yiru patiently changed into it. Dongwon glanced at the wedding gowns that were hanging on the rack. From the corner of her eye, She caught sight of Yun Jian and Ce who were not too far away. Yun Jian was sitting on the bench in the resting area, while Ce was standing beside Yun Jian. His tall and slender legs were pressed against Yun Jian's resting area. His handsome face attracted the attention of many ladies, who had entered the bridal shop to pick out their wedding gowns. Of course, Ce's eyes were fixed on Yun Jian the entire time. Dong Ruan walked along the rows of neatly hung wedding gowns, and stood in front of Yun Jian. Then, she happily stood in front of Yun Jian, and placed a wedding gown in front of Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, this wedding gown suits you. Do you want to try it on? Yun Jian was sitting in the lounge, and reading a newspaper when she heard Dong Ruan's words. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She looked up at Dong Ruan, and pursed her lips slightly. Me? Yeah, it doesn't cost anything to try. Besides, it might be your Nai's turn in less than 2 to 3 years. Dong Ruan said as she pulled Yun Jian to her feet. At the same time, she pushed Yun Jian into the changing room with a smile. Yun Jian had been sitting in the lounge waiting for Qin Yiru to give her comments after she changed into a wedding gown. She did not expect Dong Ruan to drag her to try on a wedding gown. Yun Jian tugged at the corners of her lips, but she eventually took the wedding gown that Dong Ruan had forcefully passed to her with a smile, and entered the changing room. Ce's dark eyes glinted before he turned his gaze to the changing room, where Yun Jian was changing. Dong Ruan snickered behind Ce at the sight. This wedding gown is a little tight. Qin Yiru had already come out of the changing room. She shrank back and looked around before asking, "Where's Xiao Jian?" I asked her to try on the wedding gown. Haha. Dong Ruan giggled. Before Qin Yiru could react, the door to Yun Jian's changing room opened. Everyone's gaze turned to the door. Yun Jian was wearing a one-shoulder strapless wedding gown that did not reach the floor. The simple and crisp wedding gown was just like her, bright and dazzling. Yun Jian's fair skin paired with the pure white wedding gown made her look like an angel who had returned from heaven. It was so tempting that one could not wait to rub her into their body. Is it strange? Yun Jian asked when she saw that everyone was stunned. She looked down at the wedding gown she was wearing. Chapter 756. When Yun Jian came out, Ce did not react much, but it could be seen from his abrupt squint that he was taken aback. Yun Jian had a great figure. She had the best curves in all the right places. There was not a single bit of flesh missing from her body, and not a single bit of excess in the places where there should not be flesh. Her slender yet voluptuous legs were covered by the hem of the wedding gown, but the gown's design was a one-shoulder spaghetti strap and a tube top. Yun Jian's ample bosom, and her slim yet voluptuous arms, were paired with her curvy waist and slightly perky bottom. Yun Jian was mesmerizing no matter how one looked at her. Even Emo's son, who had never been attracted to women, could not help taking a few more glances. It was only when he felt Ce's murderous glare that he realized that he was openly checking out his young mistress in front of the young master. Emo's son hurriedly averted his gaze. He even coughed to cover up his awkwardness at the moment. What's the rush, kid? Why are you buying a wedding gown so early? Dong Ruan came over and glared at Ce with a grin before holding Yun Jian's hand. I told you this wedding gown suits you. There was no need to mention how beautiful it was. Heh. Dong Ruan said and patted the back of Yun Jian's hand affectionately. Yun Jian looked back with a smile. My Xiao Jian looks good in anything, unlike me. My figure is already out of shape. Qin Yiru came over with a grin as well. So you have to work out well. You must look beautiful on our wedding day. Dong Ruan said with a grin. May I ask? It was then that a low male voice was heard. They turned their heads and saw a middle-aged man standing in front of them with a digital camera in his hand. The middle-aged man was slightly plump and wore a pair of round spectacles. He looked rather refined and cultured. When Qin Yiru saw the middle-aged man, she thought that he was here to ask for directions, so she replied, Excuse me, is this young lady your daughter? In terms of appearance, Yun Jian and Qin Yiru were quite similar. Therefore, the middle-aged man hung the digital camera in front of his chest and asked Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru was a little suspicious, but she still nodded. It's like this. I'm a talent scout from Baiguang Model Agency. My name is Zhao Jingmin. I just happened to see your daughter's stunning beauty, so I want to hire her to our company. The man who claimed to be a talent scout, Zhao Jingmin, said as he took out a business card from his pocket. Just as Zhao Jingmin was about to pass the business card to Qin Yiru, Ce said decisively, "She won't go." Ce was already taller than the average person. Zhao Jingmin was about 1.75 meters tall, which was not considered short among men. However, compared to Ce, who was 1.85 meters tall, he had to raise his head slightly to look at him. Ce was shielding Yin Jian behind him with a slight frown. His unapproachable expression sent chills down one's spine. However, a talent scout like Zhao Jingmin was used to seeing all kinds of people in the secular world. Although he was slightly stunned, he did not know who this man was. However, Zhao Jingmin still passed the business card to Qin Yiru and said to Qin Yiru, "Our company is a legitimate company, and I'm responsible for attracting people with potential to our company. If you're interested." Zhao Jingmin was indeed shocked by Yin Jian's shocked expression, but he completely ignored Ce's words. After all, Yin Jian was definitely a student at her age. Since she was a student, her mother would definitely be in charge of her company. Chapter 757. Was this Zhao Jingmin courting death? Didn't he hear what I said? A murderous glint flashed across Ce's eyes. Whenever he thought of Yin Jian's appearance being peeked at by outsiders, he would have the urge to kill the other party immediately. Zhao Jingmin was so scared that his whole body almost trembled when he heard Ce's voice. Ce's voice was dignified and respectful, especially when he revealed his murderous intent. There were not many people in the world who could look him in the eye. Although Zhao Jingmin was shocked, he quickly calmed down. As someone in Zhao Jingmin's line of work, he had seen a lot of ups and downs. Moreover, Zhao Jingmin had encountered someone who chased after him with a broom and beat him up before. Of course, Zhao Jingmin's job was to discover new stars and find new models for his company or actors in the entertainment industry. This was his job and his goal. In order to achieve his goal, Zhao Jingmin would do whatever it took. Zhao Jingmin discovered Yin Jian because he wanted to take a digital camera into the bridal shop to film some daily activities. However, he did not expect to capture such a scene. A girl opened the door to the dressing room. At that moment, it was as if she was illuminated by a beam of light. Zhao Jingmin felt like he had never seen such a beautiful scene in his life. Her graceful figure, coupled with the strapless and one-shoulder wedding gown, made her every move seem like a fairyland. It was even more beautiful than the scenery in fairyland. Zhao Jingmin was completely mesmerized. That was why he wanted to rope Yin Jian into his company. Can you seriously consider it? If you join our company, you will have a bright future. For example, if you intern at our company for a few years, we can arrange for you to debut. You can also enter the entertainment industry. Perhaps the entertainment industry is not popular yet, but nowadays, movies and TV series are gradually becoming popular. I believe that in a few years, movies and TV series will be popular all over the country. And I really don't want to miss out on a talent like your daughter, so. In 1999, acting in movies and TV series was not as popular as it was now. On the contrary, when the profession of acting in movies or TV series was first introduced, acting was still a very dishonorable profession. At that time, people still called actors and actresses. In ancient times, actors and actresses were never respected. Of course, in the later period, the social status of actors changed dramatically in people's daily lives. In 1999, every household had yet to be able to afford a television. However, a talent scout like Zhao Jingmin could only coax little girls. Of course, if it was a legitimate talent scout or a legitimate company, it would be fine. Ce didn't even want to explain herself to Zhao Jingmin, who kept pestering her. Courting death? I'll fulfill your wish. Mo-san. Ce pursed his lips and looked at Yin Jian, but his words were directed at Mo. Senator Mo-san received the order and was about to make a move. No. Let's talk it out, don't fight here. Qin Yiru knew Ce's temper, but fighting here would affect the others. Qin Yiru was kind-hearted, so she stopped her. As soon as Qin Yiru stopped her, Emo's son immediately stopped. This was the future mother-in-law of the young master. How could he dare to offend her? However, Qin Yiru had already turned to look at Zhao Jingmin and said apologetically, "I just want my child to live a peaceful life, so I'm sorry. At the same time, thank you for your praise of my child." Qin Yiru didn't want Yun Jian to be a model or enter the entertainment industry. Chapter 758. Yun Jian kept quiet because she knew that Qin Yiru and Ce would reject the offer on her behalf. Yun Jian had no intention of entering the entertainment industry either. Slaying God, the top secret agent in the international secret agent ranking, was going to compete with the big shots in showbiz? If word got out and Yun Jian's old friends heard about it, wouldn't they be laughing their heads off? Zhao Jingmin panicked when he heard that. In spite of it, he did not want to let go of such a good seedling like Yun Jian. So he came up with a new way to persuade the girl. We're no longer in a feudal society. Children should have their own opinions. What if your child wants to do it if you reject it like this? Aren't you going to ask for her opinion? As he spoke, Zhao Jingmin looked at Yun Jian. It was obvious that Zhao Jingmin had completely forgotten what Ce had said just now. Perhaps to Zhao Jingmin, Ce was scary, but he would do anything to achieve his goal for his job. Moreover, although people nowadays thought that actors were just entertainers and were at the bottom of society, this was not the case for children. Nowadays, the new generation of young people had already regarded some actors as their idols. However, there were also people from the older generation who looked down on actors. Therefore, Zhao Jingmin thought that Qin Yiru might not know, but a young student like Yun Jian should know, right? After all, it was such a great opportunity that some people did not even have the chance to enter the entertainment industry. Qin Yiru knew what Yun Jian was thinking, but since Zhao Jingmin asked, Qin Yiru asked Yun Jian a question out of courtesy. "Xiao Jian, go ahead," Qin Yiru told Yun Jian. After Qin Yiru shifted her gaze to Yun Jian, the rest of the group shifted their gaze to Yun Jian as well. Zhao Jingmin was brimming with confidence. After all, youngsters nowadays who were slightly attractive wanted to enter the entertainment industry. On the other hand, the older generation ostracized actors. To put it bluntly, a talent scout like Zhao Jingmin was looking for such a pure and innocent girl. Young girls who didn't know anything were their targets. They were the ones who were easily deceived. After all, one could become an idol and dazzle in the entertainment industry. Zhao Jingmin had taken advantage of this to trick many innocent girls. Zhao Jingmin did not believe that a girl as pretty as Yun Jian would not want to enter the entertainment industry. "I don't want to." These two simple words summed up his decision. Yun Jian's reply killed Zhao Jingmin's idea. "Ah, okay." Zhao Jingmin appeared to be very disappointed. Before Zhao Jingmin could finish his words, however, Ce's hand was already holding Yun Jian's hand, as they went to the changing room. "Hey, where are you going?" Qin Yiru stuck her head out to ask. "To change." Ce glanced at Yun Jian's wedding gown and replied to Qin Yiru. It was because of this wedding gown that they got into trouble, so he wanted her to change out of it. Her beauty was only for him to see. This child. Qin Yiru could hear Ce's angry tone and moved her lips slightly. "Let them be. Let's hurry up and choose yours." Dong Ruan chuckled and pulled Qin Yiru to continue trying on the wedding gown. Zhao Jingmin, who stood where he was, watched Ce pull Yun Jian into the changing room with his own eyes, completely ignoring it. Zhao Jingmin clenched his fists in an unnoticeable spot and gritted his teeth in hatred. Neither he nor his company would let go of such a beauty. He would absolutely not stop. Chapter 759. Yun Jian only realized what had happened after Ce pulled her into the changing room. How was she going to change now that he had followed her in? Moreover, the wedding gown came with its own bra. She had removed her bra when she was wearing it. If she were to change in front of Ce, wouldn't she be completely naked except for her lower body? "I'm going to change now. Get out," Yun Jian said as she pushed Ce. Ce admitted that he was indeed interested in Yun Jian, but he wasn't that horny. Moreover, his woman would be his forever. She couldn't escape from him. Ce curved his lips slightly. He turned and walked out of the changing room with a smile and stood at the door. Ce only held Yunjian's hand again after she had changed and walked out of the changing room. Would you like to buy this wedding gown? The attendant at the side took out the wedding gown that Yunjian had just worn and arranged it neatly before she turned to ask Ce and Yunjian. Yes. Ce's thin lips moved. His eyes were fixed on Yunjian the entire time, but his words were directed at the attendant. The attendant immediately went to pack the wedding gown after hearing his words. I don't need it now, Yunjian couldn't help but say. She was 16 years old and was only in her 3rd year of middle school. If she had gotten married earlier, it would have been fine. However, based on the current situation, she really didn't need this wedding gown. After all, even if they were going to get married, it was still too early to talk about it. Moreover, she had accompanied Qin Yiru to buy a wedding gown today. In the end, she had gotten involved and picked one before Qin Yiru. You need it. After you buy it, you can only wear it for me to see. Ce looked at Yunjian. His sharp eyebrows and starry eyes seemed to be able to speak. Yunjian pursed her lips when she heard this. A slight blush appeared on her cheeks, but on the surface, her expression did not change at all. She was very calm and composed. Ce's words made some of the women in the store blush, even though she wasn't talking to any of them. What about this? How about this one? It's not tight, and I think it fits me well. At this moment, the door of another dressing room opened and Qin Yiru walked out in a floor-length wedding dress. Qin Yiru had put on weight before, but now her figure had improved a lot. When Qin Yiru put on the wedding dress and walked out of the dressing room, everyone's eyes lit up. The wedding gown accentuated Qin Yiru's elegance. The floor-length hemline was very long, and the wedding dress looked as if it was decorated with diamonds. It shone brightly from afar. Qin Yiru's skin was very good, and Yunjian most likely looked like her, except that Qin Yiru looked slightly fatter than Yunjian. However, if Qin Yiru slimmed down, she wouldn't look old even if she was middle-aged. Therefore, this sparkling wedding dress looked very elegant on Qin Yiru. Everyone present could not help but take a few more glances. Wow, this one looks good. Yiru, we'll take this one. Dongwon saw this and immediately ran to Qin Yiru's side to look at Qin Yiru a few times. Slim down a little more. Those who didn't know when you got married might think that you're a young lady in your early 20s. We'll take this one, Dongwon said. When Qin Yiru heard this, she smiled and looked at Yunjian and Ce. Mom, it looks good. We'll take this one, Yunjian said. Very good. Even Ce gave the highest praise. Chapter 760. Emo-san, pay the bill. Upon hearing Dongwon say that Qin Yiru would marry Yunjian as soon as she was happy, Ce's thin lips moved as he hurriedly spoke. The corners of Emo-san's mouth twitched. Young master, you weren't such a proactive person in the past. However, Emo-san still didn't say anything as he walked over to pay for the 2 sets of wedding gowns. In addition to a pure white wedding gown, a wedding gown would also be required. Of course, some families that weren't rich enough wouldn't even buy a wedding gown. They would only have a traditional red wedding gown. Although Emo-san had already bought all the stores in the United Luenmai shopping center, including the goods in the stores, he still needed Manager Yang to negotiate with the merchants of the entire United Luenmai shopping center. After signing a contract, he would finally transfer it out. There were still many steps in the process. Of course, Ce didn't lack the money. He couldn't wait, so he naturally paid the bill first. Moreover, if there was one less item here, it meant that Manager Yang would refund him more money. The two had nothing to do with each other. By the time Qin Yiru changed out of the wedding gown and had it packed by the waiter, it was already 3 in the afternoon. Time passed very quickly. In addition, Qin Yiru had tried on many wedding gowns in the beginning, so it took time to change into a wedding gown. Naturally, time passed very quickly. Yunjian and the others also realized that Zhao Jingmin, who claimed to be a talent scout, had already left. Qin Yiru and Dongwon naturally thought that Zhao Jingmin had given up on exploring Yunjian. Thus, the two of them carried the wedding gowns they had bought and walked home excitedly. Qin Yiru and Dongwon walked in front, holding hands as they talked. while Ce and Yun Jian followed behind. Emo's son followed at the back alone. After passing through the bustling and crowded downtown, it was already around 3:30 p.m. when they reached home. Qin Yiru went to prepare dinner as soon as she reached home. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were still having fun upstairs. When Yun Jian and the others reached home, Lan Su had just helped Adam walk home from outside the house. Slow down, slow down, slow down. My legs. Adam complained as he was supported by Lan Su as they walked back into the house. Emo's son, who was standing in the distance, saw this and ran out to help Adam without saying anything. Let me do it, Emo's son said to Lan Su, and then he took over from Lan to help Adam. Yes, Lan Su nodded. If one looked closely, one would see that her forehead was covered in a dense line of sweat. Lan Su really did not know how to serve others. She had always been served by others, and this was the first time she had to support a man like this from a walk in the park. Adam swung his slender hand and placed it on Emo-sen's shoulder. Emo-san and Adam were about the same height. Both of them were about 1.8 meters tall. Although Lan Su's height was considered quite tall among girls, she was still half a head shorter than Adam. Therefore, after Adam put his hand on Emo-sen's shoulder, he clearly felt a lot more relaxed. Thinking like this, Adam couldn't help but tease Lan Su. Phew, this is tall enough. You're short. I can't even stretch my hand, and I have to bend my back to walk. You. Lan Su was angered by Adam's words. You still want to hit me? I'm a patient. Adam smiled mischievously and pulled his handsome mouth that looked a bit dandy when he smiled. Lan Su really wanted to beat Adam up, but she quickly remembered that Adam's injuries were for her, so she endured it. Chapter 761. Yun Jian could not help curling her lips at the sight. Ah, you're all here. We're all here. Just as Adam limped into the room with his hand on Masen's shoulder, a mature and steady male voice suddenly rang out. Yun Jian turned to look and saw Gu Junjian entering the house before he could even change out of his military uniform. I heard that you guys bought wedding gowns? How was it? Did you find anything you like? Gu Junjian asked as he removed his jacket and placed it on the stool beside the dining table. I bought it for Yiru. It's on the sofa. Take a look. I picked it out for Yiru. Yiru looks gorgeous in it. Dong Wuan was acquainted with Gu Junjian because of Qin Yiru. Although they didn't have a good relationship, Dong Wuan still joked with Gu Junjian. Okay, let me take a look, Gu Junjian replied, and took out the wedding gown on the stool. Xiao Jian, you're going to self-study tonight. Come eat first, Qin Yiru beckoned Yun Jian. Wash your hands. There are still 2 dishes left. Let's wait at the table, Qin Yiru said with a wide grin. Sure, we're waiting for the chef. Don't make us wait too long. Dong Wuan replied to Qin Yiru with a grin. By the time Qin Yiru served the remaining 2 dishes, everyone was already seated around the table. The marriage application I submitted to the higher-ups last time has been approved, Gu Junjian said as he ate his rice. Although she knew that the marriage application was bound to be approved, Qin Yiru could not help exclaiming in delight. Really? Gu Junjian nodded and said, I'm going to treat my comrades to dinner next Saturday. Xiao Yi will be there too. Yun Yi was from the high school and usually went home once a week. He would definitely be home on Saturday night. When they heard that Gu Junjian was going to treat them to a meal, everyone expressed their silent approval. Next Saturday? I'm going back to work next Saturday. I wish you all good food and drinks, haha. Dong Wuan immediately said. Qin Yiru also expressed that it was a pity that Dong Wuan could not come. However, knowing that Dong Wuan was usually busy, Qin Yiru felt relieved. As he spoke, Gu Junjian suddenly thought of something. He turned around and said to Qin Yiru, who was sitting next to him, I applied for leave tomorrow. Tomorrow, I can take you to prepare for the wedding. Okay. Qin Yiru's smile widened when she heard this. Yun Jian sat to the side and occasionally chatted with Xiao Yunju, Duanli and Duanya. Meanwhile, Ce sat next to Yun Jian and silently put food in Yun Jian's bowl. Yun Jian also ate all the food that Ce put in her bowl. It was almost 4:30 p.m. when Yun Jian finished all the food in her bowl. Mom, I'm going to school. Yun Jian stood up and said to Qin Yiru, "I'll send her off." Ce also put down her bowl and chopsticks. Yun Jian ran upstairs and took her bag downstairs. Ce lazily put one hand in his pocket and walked out with Yun Jian. Since it was still early, and the villa was not far from school, Yun Jian and Ce walked there. "Let me do it." As soon as they walked out of the villa, Ce took Yun Jian's bag and helped her to carry it. Yun Jian did not refuse. Her bag was not heavy. When they reached the school gate, Ce returned her bag and said very ambiguously, "I'll wait for you to come back tonight." "Okay." Yun Jian smiled and took her bag. Ce's appearance attracted the attention of many passing girls. However, Ce did not stop at any other girl except for Yun Jian. After Ce left, Yun Jian put on her bag and planned to walk into school. Chapter 762. Before Yun Jian could turn around, Chen Sini had already pounced on her and hugged her shoulder affectionately. "Amen," Yun Jian answered softly and asked Chen Sini, "Where's Zhang Xiaofeng?" Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were cousins, and both of them liked to tease each other. Yun Jian could not help being surprised that Zhang Xiaofeng was not around. His fever hasn't gone down today. I told him not to come," Chen Sini said before hugging Yun Jian and inching closer to Yun Jian with a grin. "Xiao Jian, I saw the handsome guy who sent you to school just now. I even heard what he said," Chen Sini said with a grin. She then pouted playfully and emphasized her tone, repeating what Ce had said to Yun Jian. "I'll wait for you to come back tonight." "Haha, that's what he said. I think you guys are having an affair." Chen Sini did not mean anything else. She was just playful and liked to imitate others. In spite of it, Yun Jian blushed at once when she heard it. "Wow, that's unbelievable. Xiao Jian, you're blushing?" Chen Sini exclaimed in surprise when she caught the blush on Yun Jian's cheeks. Chen Sini then regained her composure and went to Yun Jian's ear to ask as she pulled Yun Jian into the school. "Xiao Jian, tell me, how far have you guys progressed? When did it start?" Not only was Chen Sini interested in Yun Jian's gossip, even Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen were intrigued. Yun Jian was speechless. Tell me. Chen Sini pulled Yun Jian to the school coquettishly. Seeing that Yun Jian was silent, Chen Sini began to make guesses. "Did you and him do it?" Even if Yun Jian had not experienced certain things, she could guess a little from what Chen Sini said. She coughed and as if to ease the awkwardness or dispel Chen Sini's curiosity, she replied, "No." Chen Sini was speechless. Jian, has anyone ever told you that you're very direct?" Being pestered by Chen Sini all the way, it was time for the evening self-study session when they returned to the classroom. Spring had come quietly, but the campus at night was still chilly. The weekend self-study session was just self-study, and the homeroom teacher did not have any special instructions. However, there was one thing that the teacher could not forget. The homeroom teacher, Miss Yu, stood on the podium and felt the eyes of the class. She said, "The winter break is over and most of you have settled down. It's been more than a week since school started, and it's the second semester of the third year of junior high now. This means that the middle school exams are coming soon. Everyone must work hard for your goals." When it came to goals, it was nothing more than which school to get into for the middle school exams. The best high school in Longmen City was Senior High School, and most of the students were working hard to get into it. Miss Yu left after that, leaving the classroom for the students to study by themselves. Usually, whatever the homeroom teacher said would cause a commotion in the class. The students would have many topics to talk about as the teacher spoke. Take Chen Sini for example. Chen Sini, who was sitting in front of Yun Jian, could not help turning to look at Yun Jian, who was sitting behind her when she heard what the teacher said and asked, Jian, have you thought about which high school you want to get into?" "I want to get into Senior High School, but I can't meet the cutoff score." "You're so good. You can definitely get into Senior High School." Yun Jian's results were first in the 5-school joint entrance exam, so everyone's ears perked up when Chen Sini asked. Chapter 763. Yun Jian's words did not mean that she wanted to go. but that she would go. She would go to the military academy in Min City. The fundamental difference between wanting and knowing was that wanting was a possibility. Knowing was something that had already been confirmed. Hence, the students who pricked up their ears to hear which school Yunjian was going to go to were all stunned. Sitting on Yunjian's left was a fat man named Zhang Jian. When Zhang Jian heard Yunjian's words, he immediately burst into laughter. Her classmates snapped out of their daze and finally reacted. The word disbelief was written all over their faces. After Zhang Jian finished laughing, he held his breath and could not help but laugh. As he laughed, he said to Yunjian, his fat body trembling, "Ha ha ha, are you trying to kill me? Yunjian, with your skinny body, you want to go to the military academy? Pfft, don't make me laugh my head off. Who would dare to accept you in a place like the military academy? That's right, Yunjian, your grades are good, but it's the military academy. The military academy requires people with superb physical fitness to get in. Do you think the military academy will accept just anyone?" As soon as Zhang Jian spoke, someone immediately chimed in. "I think it's more practical for you to apply for the first senior high school. With your grades, it's more than enough for you to get in. When the application form for the high school entrance exam comes out, Yunjian, don't be stupid enough to apply for the military academy. Otherwise, you won't even be able to get into the first senior high school." Yunjian was the top scorer in the 5-school joint examination. At the same time, she naturally became the role model of the entire class. When they heard that Yunjian wanted to apply for the military academy, everyone present could not help but advise Yunjian against it. After all, other than Chen Sini, no one present knew that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier. Apart from those present, a large group of teachers in the office also knew that Yunjian had joined the special forces. After all, Gu Junjian had personally come to the school to invite Yunjian to join the advanced special forces. It had happened in the office back then. Yunjian also agreed to join in the presence of many teachers in the office. "If you don't know what to say, then say it." Chen Sini immediately stood out to defend Yunjian. Although it was the evening self-study period, everyone present had already started chatting. Unless the homeroom teacher came back, no one would be able to calm down. Of course Jianjian can get into the military academy. If she can't, you guys won't be able to, Chen Sini declared confidently. When the third year of junior high was about to graduate, someone would come to the graduating class to select students with good physical fitness to go to the military academy. The boys were summoned to the military academy. The girls were recruited to become air stewardesses in the future. In 1999, ordinary people could not afford to fly. If they went to military school, they would be assigned jobs after graduation. Therefore, these two schools were undoubtedly the places that the students in the class yearned for. However, there were only a few people in the entire Dragon Gate No. 1 high school who could be selected. Chen Sini, why are you so confident that she can get into the military academy? Haha. I don't think she can even reach the lowest threshold of the military academy with her tiny frame. Zhang Jian continued with a flick of his plump body. You. Chen Sini was angered by what Zhang Jian said. Chapter 764. After this male voice was heard, everyone present was a little stunned. They then turned around to see a figure appear at the back door of the classroom. Zhang Xiaofeng was holding onto the door frame at the back of the classroom. Everyone was stunned when they saw Zhang Xiaofeng appear out of nowhere. As their homeroom teacher had mentioned earlier that Zhang Xiaofeng had taken the day off due to a fever, the class was a little stunned to see Zhang Xiaofeng, who was supposed to be at home here. However, that was not the only thing that stunned them. It was what Zhang Xiaofeng said. Zhang Xiaofeng said that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier? That was not the point. The point was that Yunjian was Team Monarch/God. What kind of joke was that? Team Monarch had now become the idol of countless youths, especially the boys in school, who looked up to them. The reason was simple. Team Monarch was a team formed by advanced special forces soldiers who were around the same age as them. Most importantly, the 7 members of Team Monarch had all become members of the advanced special forces. Advanced Special Forces. Even some veteran Special Forces soldiers who had been in the military for decades could not become Advanced Special Forces soldiers. How old were the 7 members of Team Monarch? They were already members of the Advanced Special Forces. However, the most terrifying person in Team Monarch was Slashing God. Slashing God was a legendary figure. It was said that the internationally renowned Inferno Ring, an organization that was second only to an Hun group and Kosha mercenaries, was annihilated by Slashing God, who led the Zhe province army and joined forces with an Hun group and Kosha mercenaries. Rumors about Slashing God were endless. All the boys in the classroom had heard of Team Monarch's Slashing God. Most of them had even set Slashing God as their goal and role model to move forward. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofeng, who appeared out of nowhere, said that Yun Jian was the Slashing God whom the boys had been idolizing recently. How could they not be shocked? WH. Team Monarch Slashing God. Is this Yun Jian? Zhang Jian was the first to react. He stuttered as he looked at Zhang Xiaofeng, who suddenly appeared at the back door of the classroom. His beady eyes that could barely open widened. As the strongest fatty in class, Zhang Jian was no doubt the #1 fan of Team Monarch's Slashing God. Back then, Zhang Jian searched for information about Team Monarch's Slashing God. Although he did not know who was Slashing God, he managed to find quite a lot of information about her. At that time, Zhang Jian was still bragging in class, and even said that he wanted to become someone as powerful as the Killing God. When he mocked Yun Jian for wanting to go to the military school just now, Zhang Jian thought that he knew Slashing God very well. He even thought of himself as Slashing God, so he spoke to Yun Jian in disdain. Now, however, Zhang Xiaofeng was telling them that Yun Jian was the legendary Slashing God of Team Monarch, the legendary character. Not a single student in the class wasn't surprised. The classroom was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. While the class was still in shock, Zhang Xiaofeng returned to his seat. Didn't you say you're sick? Why are you back? Chen Sini looked at Zhang Xiaofeng in surprise. Chapter 765. Good job. Even Chen Sini, who had been bickering with Zhang Xiaofeng, could not help but give Zhang Xiaofeng a thumbs up. Hee. Zhang Xiaofeng could not help but scratch his hair after being praised by Chen Sini out of the blue. He had never been praised by Chen Sini like that before. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were cousins. Both of them had been at loggerheads ever since they were young. You're really Slashing God? At that moment, Zhang Jian's weak voice was heard. The question was directed at Yun Jian. Yun Jian had been sitting in her seat since the beginning, and did not look at anyone. She was holding a black pen in her hand, and was twirling it leisurely. All of a sudden, she felt the eyes of the entire class on her. She raised her head slightly, and saw Zhang Jian's face suddenly appear in front of her. Yun Jian had no intention of hiding anything. To Yun Jian, if others did not ask, she would not say. If others asked, she would not hide it either. Unless it was something fundamental, such as her rebirth. Yun Jian replied softly. However, it was this weak reply that caused an uproar in the class. Oh my god, is this for real? Yun Jian from our class is Slashing God from Team Monarch. Oh my god. A few days before the new year, one of my relatives came to me and bragged that he had seen Team Monarch's red flame. I was so envious at that time. I didn't expect Team Monarch's strongest Slashing God to be in our class. A series of shocked and terrified voices were heard. For a moment, the entire class was in an uproar. At that moment, the students in the next class were unusually shocked. What's wrong with the students in the next class? Why is it so noisy? At the same time, in the same class, Zhang Jian changed his arrogant tone and looked at Yun Jian weakly. At the same time, he asked Yun Jian, Can you accept me as your disciple? I also want to learn from you like Zhang Xiaofeng. From calling him by his name to addressing him respectfully, Zhang Jian's tone carried a hint of pleading. Learn from Team Monarch's Killing God. The students who had treated Yun Jian with disdain earlier all followed Zhang Jian's lead. Me too. Yun Jian, I also want to acknowledge you as my master. Me too. For a moment, the whole class started shouting like the wind. Go, go, go. She's my master. You didn't believe in her ability at first. She won't accept you. Zhang Xiaofeng stood out and shouted. Zhang Xiaofeng, step aside. It's up to Yun Jian to decide if she wants to accept it or not. One of the boys said confidently. I won't. However, just when the whole class was at its peak, Yun Jian's voice was heard. When the boys in the class heard Yun Jian's words, they instantly quieted down. Why? Zhang Jian asked, unwilling to give up. Because I don't accept trash. Yun Jian's words completely destroyed everyone's thoughts. Hee, I'm not trash. Zhang Xiaofeng almost jumped in joy when he heard Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian's words were her own intention. Zhang Xiaofeng had a good bone structure. With time, he would definitely become a talent in the future. However, Yun Jian had also observed the boys in the class. None of them could compare to Zhang Xiaofeng in terms of ability. Chapter 766. As expected, the students in the class were hurt by Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian's trash was a direct blow to the boys in the class. Although most of the boys in the class idolized Yun Jian, they would not give in when their idol called them trash. We're trash. Yun Jian, you're amazing, but you can't call us trash. Even if we're trash to you, what about Zhang Xiaofeng? Zhang Xiaofeng can't even beat Zhang Jian. If you ask me, he's even more trash than Zhang Jian. So why did you take him as your disciple instead of Zhang Jian? One of the boys said righteously. Following that, many of the boys started to chime in. That's right. If we're trash, then Zhang Xiaofeng should be even more trash. Why did you take Zhang Xiaofeng as your disciple? With one of them taking the lead, more and more people chimed in. It was not just the school, but the entire society as well. If I can't have it, then you can't have it either. Zhang Xiaofeng becoming Yun Jian's disciple might not have felt anything about it before. However, after knowing that Yun Jian was Team Monarch's slashing god, all the students in the class wanted to be Yun Jian's disciple. If they could not have it, then the students in the class would do everything they could to make sure that Zhang Xiaofeng would not have it either. All of you, Chen Xinyi was enraged by the clamoring boys in the class. She bit her lip and wanted to speak up for Zhang Xiaofeng, but she realized that she had nothing to say. Zhang Xiaofeng gritted his teeth. He was obviously dissatisfied, but he did not say anything. Because he has more potential than any of you here. Yun Jian's words came out of nowhere in the next second. However, it shocked everyone present. It even made Zhang Xiaofeng raise his head abruptly. Yun Jian said that he had more potential than anyone present? Ahahaha. Yun Jian, are you kidding us? Zhang Xiaofeng had potential? Even he was no match for Zhang Jian. During the first few days of the first semester of the third year of junior high school, he had tried to be brave and challenge Zhang Jian to a duel. He had been beaten up by Zhang Jian. You even said that he has great potential. Are you kidding us? Another boy in the class laughed and joked, but what he said was the truth. This group of boys laughed and talked, but the words that came out of their mouths were also poking at Zhang Xiaofeng's weakness. It forced Zhang Xiaofeng to lower his head. When Zhang Xiaofeng had just started school in the third year of junior high, he had indeed challenged Zhang Jian to a duel. Zhang Xiaofeng had learned some taekwondo, but that day, he was beaten to the ground by Zhang Jian with brute force. It was even treated as a joke, and spread throughout the school. Chen Xinyi was also present at that time. She knew that this matter had always been a sore point for Zhang Xiaofeng. So she looked at Zhang Xiaofeng worriedly. In order to show off his sturdiness, Zhang Jian lifted his buttocks slightly from the bench and hammered his chest with his strong arms. Then, Zhang Jian said to Yun Jian, Yun Jian, if you don't want to accept trash, then accept me as your disciple. As for Zhang Xiaofeng, he has no ability. Just don't accept him. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and curled her lips into a smile under everyone's gazes. Chapter 767. Yun Jian's confident statement shocked most of the students in the class. What? Even Zhang Jian blinked and looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Was she referring to me when she said trash? Did she just say that I, Zhang Jian, can't even take one hit from Zhang Xiaofeng? As soon as Yun Jian said that, Even Zhang Xiaofeng was stunned. Even Zhang Xiaofeng himself did not have the confidence to defeat Zhang Jian. In the first semester of the third year of junior high, which was before Yin Jian transferred to Longmini Junior High School, Zhang Xiaofeng had a one-on-one with Zhang Jian. The one-on-one between the two Zhangs in class was the talk of the town at that time. Zhang Xiaofeng was actually not the weakest in class, but when it came to one-on-one with Zhang Xiaofeng, it could be said that Zhang Jian beat him up so badly that he could not see clearly. It was from that day onwards that Zhang Jian was recognized as the strongest in class. On the other hand, Zhang Xiaofeng was looked down upon and mocked for quite some time. Therefore, when Yin Jian said that Zhang Jian could not even take one hit from Zhang Xiaofeng, not only the students in class, but Zhang Jian himself, even Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were shocked. Zhang Jian could not even take one hit from Zhang Xiaofeng? What kind of joke was that? Zhang Jian was widely recognized as the strongest man. Moreover, everyone knew that a fight was a competition of strength. Whoever had the most strength would win. Was Yin Jian not spouting nonsense? You don't believe me? Yin Jian asked flippantly. Her tone made those who heard her shudder. Yin Jian, if you say that you can beat me up, I have to admit that your team monarch's slashing god. But if you say that someone like Zhang Xiaofeng can defeat me, I can still force myself to believe it, because he has your guidance. He'll be able to defeat me one day. But you said that I can't even take one hit from Zhang Xiaofeng? Hey, what a joke! If I'm really defeated by Zhang Xiaofeng in one hit, I might as well acknowledge Zhang Xiaofeng as my master. Zhang Jian said defiantly. His tone was filled with disbelief towards Zhang Xiaofeng. In fact, Zhang Jian had defeated Zhang Xiaofeng with brute force back then. It was indeed a breeze. Therefore, he would rather die than admit that he could not defeat Zhang Xiaofeng, unless he really couldn't take a single blow from Zhang Xiaofeng. Are you serious? Yin Jian asked with a raised brow. Yin Jian's sudden question stunned Zhang Jian for 2 seconds. Then, to show off his manliness, he said firmly, Of course I'm serious. If I can't even take one hit from Zhang Xiaofeng, I'll beg him to be my master. Then it's decided. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. She reached out and rubbed the surface of her desk with her fingertips. Then, she tapped the surface of the desk with the pad of her finger. The first self-study period is over. See you at the mountain behind the school. As Yin Jian said that, she raised her hand and placed her elbow on the desk. Her hand formed a fist and supported her chin as she closed her eyes. Wah! Well, what? Some of the students in the class were confused and were stunned. Was this a challenge? Master! Zhang Xiaofeng called out softly. At the same time he clenched his fist. Yin Jian, you want Zhang Xiaofeng and I to fight again? Zhang Jian pointed at himself, and then at Zhang Xiaofeng. He looked at Yin Jian and asked, You don't dare to fight? Yin Jian said with her eyes closed. Chapter 768. I'm always up for it. Although Zhang Xiaofeng was not confident, since Yin Jian had accepted the challenge for him, he would not be a coward. Zhang Jian turned his head away with a smirk. Soon the class quietened down. The students seemed to have calmed down from the earlier commotion. Although the students seemed to have calmed down, none of them were calm at that moment. After a semester, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian were going to duel again. If Zhang Xiaofeng was still the same old Zhang Xiaofeng, the students would definitely think that Zhang Xiaofeng was no match for Zhang Jian. After all, in the duel half a year ago, Zhang Xiaofeng was chased around and beaten up by Zhang Jian. The two of them could not be compared at all. Zhang Jian was definitely many times better than Zhang Xiaofeng. However, things were different now. Zhang Xiaofeng had Slashing God from Team Monarch as his master, and had been learning from Yin Jian for half a year. Who was Yin Jian? She was the legendary Slashing God with unparalleled strength. Therefore, the students were very curious. After learning from Yin Jian for so long, would Zhang Xiaofeng improve even a little? Or was Yin Jian so good that she had raised Zhang Xiaofeng's strength to a whole new level? Or was it that Zhang Xiaofeng's strength was indeed better than Zhang Jian's? This was the result that all the students in the class were very eager to know. Therefore, once the first period ended, the group surrounded Zhang Jian noisily, as they walked to the mountain behind the school. Before Zhang Jian left, he turned to look at Zhang Xiaofeng and taunted Zhang Xiaofeng. "I'll see you at the mountain in 2 minutes. Don't run if you're a man." The break between classes was only 10 minutes, and the mountain behind the school was not far from the classroom. After saying that, Zhang Jian led a group of people to the back of the mountain noisily. "Jian, Zhang Jian has brute strength. I'm afraid that Zhang Xiaofeng." Chen Xinyi had seen Zhang Xiaofeng being beaten down back then. She still remembered how Zhang Xiaofeng was beaten down, so she spoke to Yun Jian with lingering fear. Before she could finish, however, Yun Jian cut her off. "What's there to be afraid of? He has brute strength, but he's still a useless piece of trash. Trust me, if Zhang Xiaofeng loses to Zhang Jian today, you can pick any hotel in Longmen City. I'll treat you 1,000 times. Some of the boys and girls who were still in class gasped when they heard Yun Jian. Treat 1,000 times? Did Yun Jian have so much money that she had nowhere to spend it? Chen Xinyi nodded. Yun Jian had already stood up from her seat. The night breeze was chilly, but it gave people a relaxed and happy feeling. "Are you scared?" Yun Jian asked as she turned to look at Zhang Xiaofeng from the corner of her eyes. "What's there to be scared of? Today, I must beat that Zhang Jian until he is lying on the ground." "I can't embarrass you, master." Zhang Xiaofeng told himself that he must win today. He was Yun Jian's pride today. "Let's go," Zhang Xiaofeng said and was about to leave the classroom. "Wait for another 2 minutes." Yun Jian's voice rang. "Huh." Zhang Xiaofeng was confused. After all, there were only 10 minutes before class ended. If they waited for another 2 minutes, it would be almost 4 to 5 minutes by the time they walked from the classroom to the mountain behind the school. Chapter 769. The Mountain Behind the School. It was a desolate and quiet place, especially at night. It was especially quiet in a place like the back of the mountain where there were no night lights. The night breeze was chilly, and coupled with the eerie atmosphere at night, it was rather scary. Fortunately, there was a factory next to the back of the mountain. Therefore, other than the moonlight, the factory outside the fence was still lit. Because of this, he was able to reverse the strange atmosphere in this place. It was already 4 to 5 minutes past the end of class. Zhang Jian and his friends who had been waiting there for a long time were starting to get impatient. After all, the end of class was only 10 minutes, and it would take 4 minutes to walk from the classroom to the back of the mountain, and then back to the classroom. Time was running out, but Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Jian were still nowhere to be seen. "Zhang Jian, do you think Zhang Xiaofeng is so scared that he doesn't dare to come?" Amidst the silence, one of Zhang Jian's best friends spoke up. "No way. That Zhang Xiaofeng is such a coward? He's the disciple of Slashing God. Why is he so cowardly?" Someone else immediately added. "Class is starting soon, and we've been waiting here for 2 minutes. Damn it, are they trying to leave us hanging here?" Everyone was talking. Just as Zhang Jian was getting impatient and frustrated, someone among the students who were watching the show suddenly shouted, "Hey, look, they're here." Looking over, they saw Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Chen Xinyi walking over. Yun Jian walked at the front. Her lazy gait made her look like she was taking a stroll. The students who stood there and felt the northwest wind for a while could not help but grit their teeth. However, since they knew that Yun Jian was Team Monarch's Slashing God, no one dared to criticize Yun Jian. "You're here? Let's begin," Zhang Jian said as he took off his jacket, revealing his muscular arms. "There's no hurry," Yun Jian said calmly. As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, she turned her head to look at Zhang Xiaofeng. Under everyone's gaze, she said, "Remember the techniques I usually teach you. You have to be fast and win in one move. End the battle quickly." The technique that he usually taught Zhang Xiaofeng? What kind of technique was that? Everyone present couldn't wrap their heads around it. Zhang Xiaofeng nodded heavily. He already understood what Yun Jian meant. Yun Jian wanted him to fight with Zhang Jian today. Her intention was obvious. Not only did she want him to defeat Zhang Jian, but more importantly, she wanted him to engage in actual combat with others. In Yun Jian's own words, It was only through continuous combat that there was a possibility of improvement. You can only succeed. Failure is not an option. Go on, Yunjian urged. What kind of master would only allow his disciple to succeed and not allow his disciple to fail? Everyone present was a little stunned. It had to be said that Yunjian's words were too profound for everyone present. After all, everyone present thought that Yunjian's words were too serious. Someone thought about it and said, Yunjian, aren't you being too strict? You only allow Zhang Xiaofeng to succeed and not allow him to fail. Aren't you putting unnecessary pressure on him? What else should I do? Yunjian raised her eyebrows and looked at that person. That person was at a loss for words after Yunjian's question. Right now, you're only fighting one-on-one. If you step out into the world, your every move will be used by the other party to kill you. You said that I'm being too strict by only allowing him to succeed and not allow him to fail? Have you ever thought that if I don't ask him to succeed, he will choose to retreat in the face of a life and death battle? Chapter 770. Yunjian spoke word by word. However, her words made most of the people present frown. They didn't understand. Most of them naturally didn't. Yunjian's words were profound. However, what she said was also the truth. Yunjian did not take in useless people. Even if her disciples could not become internationally renowned figures in the end, her minimum requirement was for them to reach the level of a high-level secret agent assassin. In fact, Yunjian herself was a dangerous person. Those who wanted to follow her and protect their lives by her side were bound to be in danger at all times. So, what should they do when facing these dangers? Was she going to persuade Zhang Xiaofeng to give up since it was dangerous? Then should he just wait for death? Yunjian naturally could not do that. Hence, she wanted Zhang Xiaofeng to succeed from now on. Failure was not an option. The people present naturally did not know what Yunjian had experienced in the past. They also did not know why Yunjian would ask Zhang Xiaofeng to do that. Come. Don't King talk nonsense. If you delay any longer, class will start. Zhang Jian could not wait to show off. Hence, he waved his arm and greeted Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng also remembered Yunjian's words. At this moment, he was already walking towards Zhang Jian. The mountain behind the school was no doubt the best place to settle personal grudges. This was because fighting and gang fights here were the least likely to be discovered by the teachers. Cinny, hold this for me. Zhang Xiaofeng took off his jacket and threw it to Chen Cinny before walking towards Zhang Jian. After a period of training, Zhang Xiaofeng's physique had become much stronger. In addition, Zhang Xiaofeng's physique was strong. In addition to his handsome appearance, he was also the most handsome person in Longmen First High School. Coupled with his strong and perfect physique, he attracted the screams of many girls on the spot. Attack quickly. Win with one move. End the battle quickly. Yunjian's words rang clearly in Zhang Xiaofeng's ears. He clenched his fists and walked towards Zhang Jian. On the way to the back of the mountain, Yunjian explained some techniques to him. For example, when facing a fat guy like Zhang Jian, he couldn't just use brute force. Against Zhang Jian, Yunjian wanted him to win in speed. Fast, accurate, and ruthless. These were the moves that Yunjian usually used. Recalling Yunjian's usual moves, Zhang Xiaofeng walked towards Zhang Jian. On the other hand, Zhang Jian was getting impatient. Take this. Zhang Xiaofeng rushed forward, wanting to hug Zhang Xiaofeng and perform a simple shoulder flip. Zhang Jian planned to use his brute force to carry Zhang Xiaofeng's thin and weak body on his back and throw him to the ground. Just as Zhang Jian was about to approach Zhang Xiaofeng suddenly moved. In the next second, he recalled the moves that Yunjian usually taught him. He gently moved to the side and dodged Zhang Jian's approach. Zhang Jian was stunned. This kid dodged. Bang! While Zhang Jian was in a daze, he suddenly felt a powerful force coming towards him. In the next second, Zhang Jian's body flew out in an instant. He flew out in an arc and landed on the lawn a few meters away. Zhang Xiaofeng took advantage of Zhang Jian's stunned state and punched Zhang Jian's abdomen. After Yunjian's training, Zhang Xiaofeng's wrist strength was now very strong. Therefore, Zhang Xiaofeng's attack sent Zhang Jian flying. Shock. Everyone was shocked. It was just as Yin Jian said. Zhang Jian couldn't even withstand one move from Zhang Xiaofeng. Everyone present couldn't help but feel shocked. Chapter 771. While the crowd was still in shock, Zhang Xiaofeng stopped his attack while panting weakly. After all, Zhang Xiaofeng was still running a fever, and his stamina was obviously not as good as it was before. Therefore, he had used up all of his strength just by throwing out a light punch. Put it on quickly, you're still running a fever. Chen Sini quickly ran over and put the jacket on Zhang Xiaofeng. Although Zhang Xiaofeng was running a fever and his cheeks were burning, he did not feel any discomfort. In fact, he was much stronger than Zhang Xiaofeng. However, Zhang Xiaofeng's lack of confidence was due to the fear of being beaten up by Zhang Jian. Once bitten, twice shy. That was the principle. Zhang Xiaofeng also knew that from today onwards, the voices that said that he was weaker than Zhang Jian would disappear. Other than Yun Jian, he was the role model for the students of Longmen First High School. Once he thought of that, Zhang Xiaofeng's exhausted body regained its strength in an instant. Compared to Zhang Xiaofeng, who won with his own strength, the crowd admired Yun Jian the most. Oh my god! What a shocking turn of events! Zhang Xiaofeng has always been weaker than Zhang Jian. He was even beaten up by Zhang Jian last semester. How long has it been? Just like what Yun Jian said, Zhang Jian couldn't even last one hit from Zhang Xiaofeng. Looks like this Yun Jian is really a god. Team Monarch's slashing god is really extraordinary. A few classmates could not help but boast. What? Team Monarch's slashing god? Which one is it? There were also students from other classes who came to watch the show. Look, that's the girl, she's Team Monarch's slashing god. Haha, you didn't expect that, right? She's our classmate. Voices like these rose and fell one after another. Everyone present stared at the scene with their eyes wide open. Zhang Xiaofeng put on his coat and walked up to Yun Jian. He smiled and said to Yun Jian, "Master, I won." Just as he finished the last word, Zhang Xiaofeng sneezed. Zhang Xiaofeng had a fever and a cold. His body was already weak, but he stubbornly accepted Zhang Jian's challenge. Very good. Yun Jian also gave the highest praise. Then she smiled slightly and finally turned around. It's time for class. Let's go, Yun Jian said. Indeed, it was almost time for class. Just now, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian's exchange of moves, including the exchange of words, took a total of 2 to 3 minutes. Wait, Zhang Jian's stubborn voice came from behind. The students who had been talking stopped talking when they heard Zhang Jian shout. Could it be that Zhang Jian was not convinced? Did he want to do it again with Zhang Xiaofeng? However, they saw Zhang Jian walking towards Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Jian's fat body trembled, and he ran very quickly. What are you trying to do? Zhang Xiaofeng's forehead was burning, but he still stared at Zhang Jian cautiously. Please take me in as your disciple. Zhang Jian looked at Zhang Xiaofeng and said sincerely. Everyone present was shocked. Zhang Jian was really begging Zhang Xiaofeng to take him in as his disciple? Although Zhang Jian did say that if he lost, he would beg Zhang Xiaofeng to take him in as his disciple. However, no one present took it seriously. Zhang Xiaofeng was obviously shocked as well, but he reacted quickly. Chapter 772. Zhang Xiaofeng's one-on-one duel with a well-behaved disciple was something Zhang Xiaofeng bragged about in the next few days. It was to the extent that Chen Sini got a headache from listening to it. In the end, Chen Sini bought tape to seal Zhang Xiaofeng's mouth, forcing Zhang Xiaofeng to shut up. A week passed in the blink of an eye. The duel on the weekend night was etched in many people's minds. While they were bragging about how Zhang Xiaofeng defeated Zhang Jian, they had to mention Yun Jian as well. Yun Jian was a day student. She was often busy shuttling between school, home, New Cruise and Falcon Hall. Other than weekends, CE would not be in Longmen City for at least 2 to 3 days from Monday to Friday. He would make a trip back to an Hun group, but he would be back soon. Classes ended on time on Friday afternoon. Zhang Xiaofeng came to school stubbornly due to his fever and cold, but his condition worsened in the next few days. Finally, he could not take it anymore and applied for leave to go home. Hence, Zhang Xiaofeng was missing on Friday. Zhang Xiaofeng was indeed his disciple. Although he was not as hardworking as Zhang Xiaofeng, when he was Yun Jian's disciple, it was not too far off. In spite of it, the main reason Zhang Jian took Zhang Xiaofeng as his master was that he could not take Yun Jian as his master. Now Zhang Xiaofeng was better than him as well. Zhang Xiaofeng had learned his skills from Yun Jian. This meant that even if Yun Jian refused to take him as her disciple, he could at least learn from Yun Jian through Zhang Xiaofeng. Jian, let's pack up and go home. I'm exhausted after 5 days of school. I must relax when I get home, Chen Xinyi said after a stretch. On Friday, as soon as class ended, all the students in the class ran out of the classroom. Especially some of the male students. After school on Friday, they ran away faster than anyone else. I'm done, Yun Jian said to Chen Xinyi as she picked up her bag and slung it over one shoulder. Let's go. Chen Xinyi immediately took the opportunity to walk over and hold Yun Jian's hand, pulling Yun Jian to the school gate. Usually, after Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi left the school gate, they would walk together for a while before separating. When Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi walked out of the school gate, a very familiar person walked towards them. The man had a digital camera hanging in front of his chest. When he saw Yun Jian, he immediately walked up to Yun Jian. Hello, Miss Yun Jian. Zhao Jingmin, who had failed to invite Yun Jian to enter the entertainment industry not long ago, stood in front of Yun Jian again. Yun Jian pressed her lips together when she saw Zhao Jingmin standing in front of her again. She had planned to pull Chen Xinyi and leave by the side. Jian, he's calling you? Do you know him? Chen Xinyi glanced at Zhao Jingmin suspiciously. What kind of address could a talent scout like Zhao Jingmin not find out? Although Zhao Jingmin did not know who Yun Jian was, his talent as a talent scout was to find out everything that could be found. It was not difficult for Zhao Jingmin to find Yun Jian. I don't know him, Yun Jian said, planning to leave with Chen Xinyi. It was then that Zhao Jingmin's eyes darted around. Seeing that Yun Jian was going to reject him again, and Chen Xinyi was rather pretty, Zhao Jingmin went up to Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi to block their path. Zhao Jingmin turned to Chen Xinyi and said, Miss Yun, I'm sorry. Chapter 773. Although Chen Xinyi was not as pretty as Yun Jian, Chen Xinyi's beauty was still outstanding among girls. Especially in this society, it was rare to find a girl as fresh and sweet as Chen Xinyi. Therefore, since Yun Jian refused to join, Zhao Jingmin immediately turned his attention to Chen Xinyi. Chen Xinyi was stunned by Zhao Jingmin's invitation for a few seconds. She couldn't react in time. Whether it was in 1999 or now, talent scouts were rare existences. What's more, the talent scouts were only interested in those with good looks. Chen Xinyi was obviously stunned when Zhao Jingmin, who claimed to be a talent scout, suddenly took notice of her, but she quickly reacted. Are you really that kind of talent scout? The kind that can act and become a star? Chen Xinyi was very interested but asked weakly. Obviously, Chen Xinyi and Yun Jian's reactions were different. Yun Jian had never been interested in this path, and Chen Xinyi was just an ordinary female junior high school student. She also had the yearning of a girl. Therefore, when Chen Xinyi heard that Zhao Jingmin was a talent scout, Chen Xinyi's eyes immediately changed into yearning and excitement. Yun Jian naturally saw Chen Xinyi's reaction. Yun Jian herself would not join Zhao Jingmin's company, but it didn't mean that she wouldn't let Chen Xinyi join. Moreover, if Chen Xinyi was willing or liked this path, Yun Jian would strongly support her. Zhao Jingmin clearly captured Chen Xinyi's expression. He knew that Chen Xinyi must be very interested in what he said. Therefore, Zhao Jingmin began to promote to Chen Xinyi. Yes, if you join our company specializes in training models. But if you're willing, you can also participate in movies and TV series, and intern in our company for a few years. You can even debut. Zhao Jingmin explained in professional terms. Chen Sini's interest was piqued after listening to Zhao Jingmin's explanation. Wow, great. There's actually a talent scout looking for me. I wanna go. Xiao Jian, I'm so happy. Chen Sini pulled Yin Jian's hand and jumped up and down happily. This is my name card. You can come to our company for an audition this Saturday night. I'll arrange an audition for you then. There's a role that suits you very well. Let me think. The title of the movie will be Pure Schoolgirl, Zhao Jingmin said to Chen Sini with a smile. Yin Jian frowned when she heard the title. Okay. Chen Sini clutched the name card and nodded at Zhao Jingmin. Then let's meet here tomorrow night at 5 o'clock? I'll drive you to our company then. Zhao Jingmin said, and then he joked. We have a one-stop service. What better service could there be in this world? Chen Sini's head bobbed up and down. It was only after exchanging contact information with Zhao Jingmin that Chen Sini pulled Yin Jian and left the school gate excitedly. Jian, that's great. Haha, I might become a superstar in the future. Chen Sini clasped her hands together with a look of yearning. Yin Jian nodded, but she felt that something was off about Zhao Jingmin just now. It was just that Yin Jian did not have the ability to predict the future, so Yin Jian could only put the matter aside for now. Chapter 774. Chen Sini was different from Yin Jian. Chen Sini had the beautiful fantasy of a young girl, while Yin Jian's experience had long obliterated her youthful fantasies. After leaving the school, Chen Sini and Yin Jian walked together for a while, because Chen Sini's house was in the same direction as Dong and Ruan's house. However, it was not long before they had to part ways. Along the way, Chen Sini was humming a tune. When both of them came to a fork in the road, Chen Sini skipped 2 steps toward her house. Then, Chen Sini suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Yin Jian, crossing her arms behind her back. Chen Sini tilted her head and looked at Yin Jian like an ignorant girl. Xiao Jian, are you free tomorrow night? If you're free, come with me. Haha. I won't be scared when I go for the audition with you around. Chen Sini was still exhilarated because she was overjoyed. To be honest, Chen Sini thought that it was all thanks to Yin Jian. If Zhao Jingmin had not been attracted by Yin Jian and came to the school gate to look for Yin Jian, she would not have been able to escape. She would not have had the chance to bump into Zhao Jingmin, the talent scout. We're treating tomorrow night. Yin Jian smiled gracefully. Last week, Gujun Jian had said that he was treating his comrades to dinner on Saturday and had already booked a hotel and table. Yin Jian would not be absent, of course, and Gujun Jian would be her stepfather soon. At that time, Gujun Jian had also repeatedly reminded them to go back for dinner. Oh, I see. Chen Sini was a little disappointed, but she waved the phone in her hand and smiled cheekily at Yin Jian. It's fine, Jian. Trust me, I can do it alone. As she spoke, Chen Sini even showed off the muscles on her arms. Although she didn't have any muscles, Yin Jian smiled. Then I'll go first. Let's call each other tonight, Chen Sini said and waved at Yin Jian. At the same time, she patted her trouser pocket. The phone was hidden in this pocket. Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng came from the wealthiest families in Longmen City, so it was not surprising that they carried mobile phones with them. When Chen Sini knew that Yin Jian had a mobile phone, she asked Yin Jian for her phone number. Chen Sini often contacted Yin Jian by phone. Okay. Yin Jian nodded. Yin Jian had just returned home when she saw Lan Su and Adam, who had come back on time, walking in through the door. Where's my mother? Yin Jian asked out of habit. Auntie went to the market to buy groceries. Lan Su came back slowly with Adam in her arms. She was still thinking about the way Emo-san had told her to serve people these few days. Ce had brought Emo-san back to an Hun group. Emo-san was worried about Lan Su helping Adam walk, so he picked a time for Lan Su to practice helping Adam. Lan Su was frightened by Emo-san's stern demeanor. Of course, everyone knew that Emo-san did it for Adam's sake. Yin Jian nodded and went into the house, putting her bag down. She did not do the homework assigned by school as usual. Homework did not exist to her, because she was good in her studies. Even if she did not do it, the teachers would turn a blind eye. Qin Yiru was still not back by 5:30 p.m. Yunjian could not sit still anymore. She planned to go out and look for Qin Yiru. Just as she reached the ground floor, she saw her brother, Yunyi, coming in from the door with a shoulder bag. Xiaojian, where's Mom? Yunyi asked Yunjian casually. Lan Su said Mom went to the market to buy groceries. I'm going to look for her. Yunjian answered casually. Xiao Yunju and the other two were already brought home by Qin Yiru. Kindergarten ended early and Qin Yiru had probably gone to the market to buy groceries after picking up the children. Chapter 775. Every Friday at this time, Qin Yiru would go to the market to buy groceries. It was because her son and daughter were on holiday on Fridays, and Xiao Yunju and the other two were there as well. Gu Junjian would come back every Friday as well. So Qin Yiru would make a trip to the market every Friday afternoon, after picking up Xiao Yunju and the other two children. When Yunyi came back from DE Senior High School, the place she would pass by every week was the market that Qin Yiru often went to. Yunyi had bought a bicycle not too long ago, and Yunyi would definitely pass by the market on her way home from school, because it was the shortest route. Therefore, Yunyi would often pass by there on her bicycle. There were many markets in Longmen City, and the market that Qin Yiru went to must be the one that Yunyi passed by. The market here had everything she needed. More importantly, Qin Yiru did not have to spend at least a dozen minutes to go to other markets that were further away to buy groceries. She would then carry the groceries she bought from afar home. Therefore, Yunyi would bike to the market every Friday after school to help Qin Yiru carry the groceries she bought. Yunyi was surprised that he did not see anyone at the market today, so he hurried home to check, thinking that Qin Yiru had already arrived home. Mom's not at the market? Hearing that Yunyi had just returned from the market, but did not see Qin Yiru, Yunjian's brows knitted tightly together. Yunyi's expression darkened as well. I'll go ask Lan Su. Yunjian turned and went upstairs. The villa was huge, and there were many rooms on the second floor. Adam, Emo-san, and Lan Su each had a room of their own. Lan Su was originally staying in the suite that Yunjian had arranged for her. However, after Adam got injured, she felt that she owed him, so she moved from the suite to take care of him. And right now, Lan Su was definitely in Adam's room. It turned out that Lan Su was indeed in Adam's house. Hurry up and wipe me clean, woman. Yunjian heard Adam's voice as soon as she reached the corridor. Standing in the corridor on the second floor, the lights in Adam's room were still shining brightly. Hearing the voice before seeing the person, Yunjian didn't have the mind to think too much. In the next second, she flashed to the door of Adam's house. What came into view was Lan Su had just brought a basin of water for Adam to wash his feet. At this moment, Adam had just finished washing his feet and was raising his feet to ask Lan Su to wipe his feet. Lan Su was just about to say something when she glanced at Yunjian, who was standing at the door. Yunjian didn't have the mood to see what was going on between Lan Su and Adam, so she decisively asked, My mom really went to the market? Yeah. Lan Su was silent for a moment, then she nodded her head heavily. And she went to the market that she often goes to. Auntie told me personally. She said that she would be back in a while. Lan Su did her best to relay everything that Qin Yiru said to Yunjian. However, Lan Su was surprised and stared blankly. She continued to ask Yunjian, what's wrong? Did something happen? My mom isn't at the market, and she didn't come home. Yunjian told Lan Su simply with a frown before running down the stairs. How is it, Xiaojian? Yunyi asked as he watched Yunjian running down the stairs with a similar frown. Mom did go to the market, but she didn't come back, Yunjian said as she took the jacket on the stool and ran out. Xiaojian, I'll go with you. Yunyi was panicking, but he turned to leave with Yunjian. Chapter 776. There was a landline at Dong Ruan's house, and Yunjian happened to have a mobile phone. So she had Yunyi stay at home. What if Qin Yiru was not missing? and had come back after going out for a while. If that was the case, Yun Jian would not have to look for her outside with a call. Amen. Without waiting for Yun Yi's reply, Yun Jian headed out. Yun Yi ran to Adam's room on the second floor. Adam was currently stretching his leg out for Lan Su to wipe it clean with a dry towel. Lan Su was reluctant at first, but Lan Su still helped Adam wipe it off in the end. Lan Su thought that Adam's injury was all because of her, so she would accept it even if Adam ordered her around like a maid. Just as she was done wiping Adam's leg, and felt the atmosphere was a little awkward, Yun Yi ran to the door. Lan Su and Adam were stunned again. Is Auntie back? Lan Su thought of it quickly and asked. However, just as Lan Su asked, Yun Yi shook her head. My mom isn't back. If she's back, please give Xiao Jian a call. I'll go out and look for her, Yun Yi said and dashed downstairs. If something had really happened to Qin Yiru, Yun Yi could not possibly stay at home like nothing had happened. No matter how poor their family was back then, Yun Yi thought that as long as he lived with his mother and younger sister, there was nothing they could not overcome. No matter how hard or tiring it was, no matter how poor their family was, as long as everyone was alive and healthy, there was nothing more blissful than this. Therefore, when Yun Yi found out that Qin Yiru had indeed gone to the market, and that she could not find her after searching around, she panicked. Even if Yun Yi was searching aimlessly outside, it was impossible for her to stay at home and wait for news. She could not sit still. Yun Jian sent a message to Falcon Hall's Duan Lei the moment she stepped out of the house. Su Zetian was on sick leave because of his serious injuries. Now he was cooped up at home every day. Under the care of his wife, he was living a good life. Everything in Falcon Hall was temporarily left to Duan Lei to manage. Therefore, when Yun Jian sent a message to Duan Lei immediately dispatched all members of Falcon Hall to search the streets and alleys of Longmen City. Yun Jian could indeed make use of the Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Group's influence to search for someone, but the Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Group did not have the ability to find a single person. It was because Qin Yiru was not an international figure. She was just an ordinary woman in Longmen City. It was impossible for the Kosha mercenaries to follow an ordinary person around all the time. After all, there were so many people on Earth. It was impossible to monitor everyone, right? Even though Qin Yiru was Yun Jian's mother, Yun Jian had never sent anyone to follow her. Under such circumstances, it was more practical for Yun Jian to seek Falcon Hall's help. After Yun Jian informed Duan Lei to bring people to look for Qin Yiru, she went to the market where Qin Yiru often went to buy groceries. Yun Jian had been to the market with Qin Yiru a few times. Following Qin Yiru, she met some of the stall owners where Qin Yiru often went to buy groceries. These stall owners had good memories, greeting Yun Jian as soon as Yun Jian walked over. Chapter 777. It was obvious that Yun Jian had come to the market with Qin Yiru a few times before, so the lady boss already knew Yun Jian. Seeing Yun Jian from afar, the lady boss could not help asking when she saw Yun Jian from afar, since there was no one in front of her stall. Has my mom been here? Yun Jian asked with a raised brow. Yun Jian looked calm as if nothing had happened, but the truth was that Yun Jian was already overwhelmed by panic. She did not expect Qin Yiru to go missing when she went out to buy groceries. Of course, if it was the Inferno Ring who had captured Qin Yiru, or some international figure who had captured Qin Yiru, Yun Jian was certain that she would know about it. Yun Jian had spies all over the world. Once those people made any noise, she would be able to wipe them out before they could do anything. This proved that Qin Yiru was not captured by the Inferno Ring, or anyone who had a grudge against her. Longmen City was neither too big nor too small. If Qin Yiru had really been captured and hidden, it would be difficult for Yun Jian to find her. Therefore, it was impossible for Yun Jian not to be nervous. If it did not work, she would just send all the members of Gusha mercenaries over. She would find Qin Yiru, even if she had to turn Longmen City upside down, and turn it upside down. Didn't she just come? About 30 to 40 minutes ago. The lady boss said after doing some mental calculations while looking at Yun Jian. Thank you. Yun Jian thanked the lady boss and was about to turn to leave when she heard the woman's voice. Hey, have you heard of the big plastic processing factory in Longmen City? That old plastic processing factory in Qingdong Street? Of course I've heard of it. It's said that the boss of the plastic processing factory is already worth millions. He's a big shot in Longmen City. Heh, if our daughter marries the boss of the plastic processing factory, wouldn't we be hooked up with a cash cow? Guess what? I heard that the boss's wife got together with her former classmate. I heard that it was exposed during the class reunion. TSK, is that true? How could I be lying? It's been proven. The boss of the plastic processing factory chased the shameless woman out immediately 2 days ago. I heard that he didn't give the shameless woman any benefits. Bah, I think the woman deserves it. Serves her right. She didn't want to live a good life and insisted on fooling around with men. Serves her right to be divorced. Those selling vegetables in the market were sold first were the older grannies. When there was no one buying in front of the stall, these grannies would chat with the grannies at the stall next to them. Yun Jian happened to be standing there and heard the two grannies chatter. She blinked her eyes. The topic of the two grannies' conversation had spread all over Longmen City, so it was not surprising that Yun Jian could hear it. However, what attracted Yun Jian's attention was not the shocking topic. It was, if she guessed correctly, Yang Whiting, the high school classmate who stopped Qin Yiru in front of the bridal shop last week, was the subject of this conversation. When they entered the bridal shop, Dong Guan casually mentioned that Yang Whiting was too conceited and kept boasting that her husband was the boss of Longmen City's plastic processing factory during the class reunion. Yun Jian remembered it, of course. What caught Yun Jian's attention was that Yang Whiting had been divorced from the two grannies. Chapter 778. Yun Jian strode out of the market and picked up her phone to make a call just as she stepped out. After 3 rings, Duanlei picked up the call. Sister Jian, find out the ex-wife of Longmen City's plastic processing plant's boss. Report to me immediately once you find her whereabouts. Yun Jian ordered simply. Yes. Duanlei nodded in agreement despite being clueless about the situation. Yun Jian was not as nervous as she was in the beginning now that she had found her tracks. After all, she did not even know where Qin Yiru had gone in the beginning. Now she had at least found a clue. 20 minutes later, Duanlei finally sent a message to Yun Jian. They had found the whereabouts of the ex-wife of the plastic processing plant's boss. Falcon Hall was in control of Longmen City now, so it was easy for them to find someone. Finding a person's whereabouts in 20 minutes was considered fast. Once she got Yang Whiting's address, Yun Jian ran home at once. She sped through the streets and alleys of Longmen City in her flashy Ferrari LaFerrari. Wherever he passed, he caused the people present to be astonished. The only people who could make Yun Jian fearful were the few people she cared about. Qin Yiru was one of them. Yun Jian only had one word for people who made her fearful: death. Yun Jian had always treated them with fear. Longmen City, 118, Zhangjiang Road in a rundown suite. A woman with a decent figure was rolling around with 5 to 6 men. The 6 or 7 people present were not wearing any clothes, and they looked even more promiscuous. If someone were to stand here right now, they would definitely vomit due to the stench of filth in the room. The woman with a decent figure wrapped herself in a blanket after she was done with the men, her eyes brimming with hatred and murderous intent. Again, one of the naked men flipped over the woman's body to continue the deed. Don't, Big Brother Lin. The thing I'm begging you to do. If one looked closely, one would be able to see that this woman who was completely naked and only had a thin blanket wrapped around her body was Yang Whiting. Yang Whiting was currently glaring at the man she called Brother Lin with a gaze brimming with hatred. My little baby, it's done for you. She's been sent to Southern Province. What are you still worried about? The man called Brother Lin touched Yang Whiting's chest. Then, he reached out to pull off the thin blanket that covered Yang Whiting's entire body. You're still worried about us, bros? Besides, such healthy organs are hard to come by. Once she's sent to Southern Province, We'll be there and pluck her organs right away and bury them somewhere. There's no evidence then. Haha, who's going to know about this? Among this group of men, a man laughed and said, but the words that came out of his mouth were extremely evil. Hearing their promise, young Whiting was relieved. At that moment, Brother Lin had already lifted the blanket that was covering young Whiting's body. Bam! At this moment, the locked iron door was kicked in from the outside. Yin Jian's ears were sharp, so she naturally heard the noise in the room. She spun and kicked the door in before standing in front of the group. Seeing that someone had suddenly entered the room, young Whiting was so frightened that she quickly covered her body with the bedding. Yin Jian frowned slightly once she entered, and pulled out a shiny pistol from her belt. She killed 4 to 5 men in the room with a single shot, until only young Whiting and Brother Lin were left. Chapter 779. After Yun Jian entered the room, she killed 4 to 5 men without saying a word. She only left young Whiting and Brother Lin alive, because she still needed to get information from them about Qin Yuru's whereabouts. She didn't have time to continue arguing with young Whiting and Brother Lin. She might as well go all out and kill them. Yun Jian didn't want to walk over and kill them with her butterfly knife, because in this kind of environment, she felt nauseous even if she went near those naked people. Moreover, these people had kidnapped Qin Yiru. Because of the incident with Xiao Yunju in her previous life, Yun Jian hated people who kidnapped the people she cared about the most without her noticing. Without a doubt, this young Whiting had crossed her bottom line. She even dared to kidnap her mother, Qin Yiru, whom she cared about the most. Yun Jian heard everything clearly from outside the room. Selling human organs. Listening to one of the dead men in the room just now, they wanted to take away all of Qin Yiru's organs? Taking away all of the organs that could be sold would also mean that the person was dead. Therefore, when Yun Jian heard this, she was completely enraged. He rushed into the room and killed the useless people without saying a word. However, to young Whiting, Brother Lin, and the others who were doing disgusting things in the room, Yun Jian's intrusion had already spooked the people there. However, they didn't expect Yun Jian to take out a gun. A gun? She actually had a gun. Before they could react, Yun Jian had already shot and killed a few of Brother Lin's brothers. Young Whiting, who had been a full-time housewife back then, felt fear when she saw the person next to her get shot to death. Even Brother Lin, who had been selling human organs for a long time, felt the hairs on his body stand on end, and he couldn't help but shiver. Young Whiting screamed in fear. Scream again and I'll kill you. Yun Jian pointed the gun at young Whiting. Bang! As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, she shot at young Whiting without hesitation. The bullet grazed young Whiting's scalp and shot into the sofa beneath her. Young Whiting's body trembled violently. She couldn't help but shudder. At this moment, young Whiting saw that the men who had been shot in the head by Yun Jian were now badly mutilated. She was so frightened that she covered her mouth. Young Whiting originally only wanted to take revenge on Yun Jian and Qin Yiru. Because of Shinzhong's exposure, the news had reached her husband's ears. Her husband divorced her without a second thought, and did not give her a single cent of the family's assets. Right now, young Whiting was in such dire straits that she couldn't even return to her maiden family, after being involved in such an unbearable scandal. Young Whiting's heart was filled with hatred. Hence, she found Brother Lin and his group of organ traffickers. Since she was done for, she wanted Qin Yiru to be done for as well. Hence, while Qin Yiru was on her way home from the market, she asked Brother Lin's brothers to kidnap her and bring her to the southern province. Then they directly sold all of Qin Yiru's organs. As for Brother Lin and his gang, the benefit of helping her was that young Whiting would accompany them. If you kill us, aren't you afraid that the police will arrest you and shoot you to death? Brother Lin said in fear. Although young Whiting had already planned to humiliate herself, she didn't want to die. Hence she begged Yun Jian. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can I get your mother back for you? Please don't kill me. And if you kill us, you'll go to jail yourself. Chapter 780. Tell me where you've taken my mother, or I'll let you die a horrible death. Yun Jian fired another shot at the worn sofa under Yang Whiting. She was Falcon Hall's boss? Falcon Hall was the biggest mafia group in Longmen City, and there was news recently that Falcon Hall had taken Jia Province's top mafia group, the Panthers Pack, under their banner. Falcon Hall was now the top mafia group in Jia Province. It was all thanks to the woman named Slaying Luo. Falcon Hall was ranked last among all the mafia groups in Jia Province back then. Since Yun Jian was Falcon Hall's boss, what was there that she dared not do? It made sense. Was there anything that Falcon Hall's boss, Slaying Luo, dared not do? You, aren't you the director of New Cruise? You're Falcon Hall's boss? How is this possible? This is impossible. No. Yang Whiting was completely stunned. Her whole body was trembling. The identity of New Cruise's director alone was enough to give Yang Whiting a heart attack. If she were New Cruise's director, Yang Whiting would not be so terrified. The problem was that Yun Jian was not only New Cruise's director, she was also the mafia boss of Longmen City. She was the boss of all the mafia groups in Longmen City and Jia Province. It could be said that Falcon Hall's boss was God in Jia Province. Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, and the mafia boss of Jia Province's top mafia group. Double identities. How is this possible? How could a young girl like her lead Falcon Hall to become Jia Province's top mafia group while founding New Cruise? I'll give you one last chance. Where's my mother? Yun Jian raised her voice. Both Yang Whiting and Brother Lin shuddered when she raised her voice. Yang Whiting was on the verge of tears. She shuddered, but she was filled with regret. How did she get involved with such a terrifying devil? Just as Yang Whiting was about to speak, the sound of a knife piercing into flesh spread throughout the room. Yang Whiting turned her head to look at Brother Lin in shock. Then, she lowered her head to look at the knife that had pierced her heart. Yang Whiting held her last breath and shouted this word. Before she could finish her sentence, Yang Whiting's eyes rolled back and she fell to the ground. Blood covered Yang Whiting's entire body, and Yang Whiting's naked body, that was covered by the bedding, was also exposed. Brother Lin had killed Yang Whiting so that he could live. So when Yang Whiting was about to tell him the address, Brother Lin picked up the watermelon knife on the table and stabbed it into Yang Whiting's heart. I can still make it if I bring you there, but you have to promise not to kill me. Brother Lin's weak voice rang out. Yun Jian smiled and raised her eyebrows. She did not react to Yang Whiting's words at all. Sure. I won't kill you unless the sun rises from the west. After a while, Brother Lin put on his clothes. Brother Lin was tied up by Yun Jian as soon as he stepped out of the door. How could Yun Jian allow Brother Lin to sit in the passenger seat of her sports car? She had already tied Brother Lin up and tied him to the roof of her Ferrari sports car. Brother Lin was enjoying the most thrilling roller coaster ride along the way. It only took slightly more than an hour to travel from Jia Province to Nan Province. Yun Jian only used a short 20 minutes to get there. Chapter 781. Yun Jian sped all the way to the highway. She sped so fast that even the cars driving on the highway were startled. Who's driving so fiercely? However, what attracted the most attention was Brother Lin, who was tied to the roof of Yun Jian's sports car and could not move at all. Brother Lin had experienced a new and exciting roller coaster ride. He could not move at all after being tied to the roof of the car by Yun Jian. Furthermore, Yun Jian was speeding at an incredible speed. It would take more than an hour to travel from Jia Province to Nan Province. However, Yun Jian had reduced the speed to 20 minutes, which was 3 times shorter. Reality proved how difficult it was for Brother Lin, who was sitting on the roof of the car. Nan Province, the place closest to the border of Jia Province. It was the most deserted part of a street called Shibu Street. Right in front of it was a huge signboard with the words Run He Clinic hanging on it. One could tell that it was a private clinic at a glance. Moreover, it was located in the most deserted corner of Shibu Street. There were very few people around, and no one came here to seek treatment. At that moment, a large black van slowly drove into the place. The people present did not pay much attention to it. Although cars were rare in 1999, it was not strange for a car to drive into a clinic to save a life. The large black van had just driven into the place. When it arrived in front of Renhe Clinic, the van slowly came to a stop. When it arrived at the entrance of Renhe Clinic, it was already a deserted and uninhabited alley. In this place, no one could hear you even if you screamed yourself hoarse. At this moment, the van's side door was pulled open with a swoosh. "Hurry up and get it out! Hurry up and get in!" A man wearing a black mask jumped out of the van. He was urging the few thugs in the van. As soon as the man in the black mask spoke, he turned around and shouted into Renhe Clinic, "Come out and help! There's a patient here! Come out and help! There's a patient here" was just a code. Immediately, a few people dressed as doctors ran out of Renhe Clinic. On the surface, Renhe Clinic was a clinic, but in fact, it was secretly involved in the business of selling human organs. The people in this line of work referred to those who were abducted as goods. As long as there were goods who were abducted, they would be taken to the Renhe Clinic to be dissected for their organs. Therefore, when the man in the black mask said the code, it meant that the goods had arrived, and it was time to start working. After the masked man got out of the car, a few people rushed out of the clinic. Just as the group of people were about to move the unconscious Qin Yiru out of the car, a voice suddenly sounded. A fiery red sports car zoomed in from outside the alley. This is. Just as the people present reacted, they saw that the fiery red Ferrari sports car had already rushed towards them. Bang! 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 A series of sounds rang out. The fiery red Ferrari rushed over and immediately drifted with lightning speed. Yun Jian drove the Ferrari sports car at a crazy speed. Then, she turned the steering wheel, and the Ferrari directly crashed into the group of men who were standing beside the black van, led by the man in the black mask. 5 to 6 people present were suddenly sent flying by Yun Jian's crash. What's going on? The people who had yet to pull Qin Yiru out of the van saw this and ran out of the car one after another. As soon as they got out of the car, they saw that the Ferrari sports car had smashed into a bloody mess. The few people led by the man in the black mask had already lost their breath. And these people saw that not far away, there was a 16-year-old girl standing on the roof of the fiery red Ferrari sports car. Yun Jian was standing on the roof of the car, without them noticing. Chapter 782. As soon as Yun Jian appeared, she drove her Ferrari and rammed into the 5 or 6 people who were standing on the flat ground, sending them flying. Among the 5 or 6 people who were sent flying, 3 of them, including the man wearing a black mask, died on the spot. The other 2 were sent flying because they weren't hit head-on. Now they were lying on the ground on their last breaths. The lucky ones were the people who hadn't gotten out of the van just now. At this moment, these people heard the commotion and ran out of the van. However, they were shocked by the terrifying scene in front of them. Where did this little girl come from? She actually drove her car and killed their people on the spot. Faced with such a situation, these people didn't have time to look at Yun Jian, who was still standing on the roof of the van. One of them rushed into the Renhe Clinic and shouted loudly, Brother Peng! Brother Peng! Something happened. There's a little girl who's causing trouble here. This group of people were all people who had done heinous things. To them, there was nothing to be afraid of after doing so many bad things. Most of these people were death row criminals who had done things that were bound to be killed. They just took advantage of the opportunity to escape before they were caught. For example, they had killed people, smuggled drugs, and so on. If they were caught, they would definitely be sentenced to death. Therefore, this group of people organized themselves into a gang that specialized in abducting or directly abducting living people from other provinces to dissect them and sell their organs for money. It could be said that they were wanted criminals. Dead people were often seen. Therefore, as long as they weren't the ones who died, even if they saw Yun Jian kill their own people on the spot, they didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy. Seeing this group of people shouting in the direction of the Renhe Clinic, Yun Jian knew that this group of people didn't listen to her at all. She smiled coldly. In the next second, she lifted her legs slightly, leaned forward, and jumped from the roof of the Ferrari to the flat ground. At this moment, another group of people ran out of the Rinha clinic. Other than the first group of people who ran out of the Rinha clinic and were sent flying by Yunjian's car. This group of people who ran out was led by a man with a rough appearance and a tall and burly body. His upper arms and abdominal muscles were almost as thick as a normal person's thigh. Ordinary people would tremble in fear just by looking at such an appearance. This rough-looking man was the Brother Peng that the man had mentioned earlier. Brother Peng ran out of Rinha clinic with a group of people in white coats. But he happened to see this scene. With a light leap, she hopped down from the top of the Ferrari sports car. Then Yunjian did a side flip. Her figure was like a ghost. With a slight turn of her body, several sharp blades appeared in her hand. With a flick of her hand, the blades shot towards the fatal spots of the people who had just alighted from the black van like a rocket. Chi! 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 Before the thugs who had called Brother Peng out could escape, Yunjian's flying daggers had already pierced their vital points. Their eyes widened as they stared at the girl in front of them, who was like the Grim Reaper. Then one after another, they fell to the ground and completely lost their breath. Brother Peng ran out of the Renha clinic with a group of people and saw this scene. In the next second, Yunjian turned her head sideways. Her eyes were bloodshot as she sized up Brother Peng and the others with a naked gaze. However, it made Brother Peng and the others panic from the bottom of their hearts. Chapter 783. Brother Peng took the lead and stood not far away from Yunjian. When he led a group of people out of the Renhe clinic and saw Yunjian kill the group of people in front of her within seconds, Brother Peng was so shocked that he stopped talking. However, he was someone who had seen a lot of things. Moreover, he was in front of his brothers, so Brother Peng did not want to show any weakness. Brother Peng looked at Yunjian, but his eyes were fixed on the blade in Yunjian's hand. The blade in this little girl's hand could kill. She had killed the group of brothers who had just returned with the goods. Although he was panicking, Brother Peng had to suppress the fear in his heart. He looked at Yunjian and gulped before asking, "Who are you?" However, Yunjian only turned her head to glance at Brother Peng and the rest. In a flash, she followed the pile of bodies on the ground and arrived at the side door of the van. Yunjian was really angry this time. Since her rebirth, this was the first time she had killed so many people on such a large scale. This feeling of killing reminded Yunjian of the time when she was the secret agent slaying God in her past life. She still remembered the time when she was surrounded by a secret agent organization. Although the secret agent organization was not particularly famous internationally, it was still ranked within the top 20 international secret agent killer organizations. Such an organization might not be much, but all the secret agents in the organization had surrounded her and killed her alone. Hundreds of secret agents had killed her alone. There were even dozens of high-level secret agents. In such a situation where death was certain, Yunjian killed everyone in the end and annihilated the secret agent organization on her own. She survived covered in blood. That time, it could be considered a true massacre. Perhaps it paled in comparison to what she was doing now. However, the difference was that in her past life, she was only doing it to survive. Now she was doing it for her family. At the same time, Yunjian had to let everyone know that anyone who dared to harm her family would be killed without mercy. Following the pile of corpses on the ground, Yunjian slowly made her way to the side door of the black van. Lifting her head slightly, she caught sight of Qin Yiru, who was tied up with hemp ropes and had black tape over her mouth. However, Qin Yiru was unconscious at the moment. She had no idea how bloody the scene was because of her. Because of her, Yunjian had killed many people who were involved in this incident. In fact, he deserved to be punished. The truth was, if Yunjian had not found this place, or if she had been an hour or two later, Qin Yiru's organs would have been crudely dug out by these crazy people. There were many rich people in the world, and the one thing they did not lack was money. However, What should they do when they were seriously ill and needed organ transplants? Naturally, they had no lack of money. That was why there were countless children who went missing in this world, and people who had their arms and legs broken on the streets. Usually, the organs of those who were kidnapped were sold at a high price by people like Brother Peng to those seriously ill rich people to save their lives. Of course, if they were lucky enough to survive after their organs were taken away, these crazy people would cripple them and put them on the streets to attract the pity of a lot of people. They would then ask for money. After their organs were squeezed dry, they would be thrown on the streets to beg for money. These were all things that happened in the real world. If Yun Jian did not save Qin Yiru before this group of people took action, Qin Yiru would only end up dead. This group of people had never thought of letting Qin Yiru go. Therefore, when she fell into Yun Jian's hands, Yun Jian would not let them go. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.